Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dibler.
Hello.
All right.
Keaton is finished now with his first round of chemo, and he's holding strong, man.
All right, we got some business to take care of. Hold on one second before we start with that. 703 strong in the YouTube chat. We are knocking on the door of 666 over on Rumble, too. That's what Jake tells me. A special round of applause for Jake in the crowd tonight. Yes. Sorry to cut you off there, Russell. But yes, I must quelch this misunderstanding. So I do appreciate
Keaton.
Yes. I do appreciate a lot of the goodwill that some of you guys sent me.
Store.
Yeah.
Save Keaton.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate a lot of the goodwill that some of you guys sent me for having taken Jimmy seriously when he joked on the air that I was undergoing chemotherapy. Now, look, I understand, Jimmy, the first time he met me, he commented on how perfect the color of my hair was. That's one of the first things he said to me was, wow, what dye do you use for that hair? Well, none. And I know that's eating at him, so I know that's why he made the joke.
That's it.
Right? But it was just a joke. Now, here's the thing. He texted me that joke earlier in the day, and I thought it was funny. I laughed at the joke. So he made the joke on his show because he played the clip of us, showing his Jose Vega intervention. But he delivered it so deadpan. Like it was the most deadpan delivery he's ever done, I think. And so I think a lot of people, because it was so deadpan, didn't get it. Most people did, but obviously when he's got an audience of a few 100,000 people watching the show. So, if a few percent don't get it, that's 10,000 people under the impression that I'm sick, and a few of you guys wish me well, and I did not want to solicit any donations under false pretenses, so I tweeted out that I am in fact fine. It was just a joke, and now if you notice, my hair is already starting to grow back. It doesn't even look like a buzz cut anymore. This is what I told you guys. My hair grows very, very quickly, so I am fine as far as I know. Knock on wood. Thank you.
That's why we call him High TK.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. But seriously, some people were sending positive vibes. Somebody posted on Instagram, prayers to Keaton Weiss.
Yeah. I kept getting people tagging me on X asking me how your condition was. And, I'm running around. I'm covering the Assange thing. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why do people keep asking me if Keaton's okay? I didn't even know what it was at first.
Because his delivery was so dry, super dry. And I think that's why.
Yeah. Well, obviously.
Yeah, indeed. Well, yes, I am fine. I am okay. I was
just like, we could get a great Save Ferris kind of campaign going, but he didn't go for it.
No.
He's too honest. This guy's too honest.
Exactly. Too
I was
honest.
like, come on, man, play it up.
What can I say?
Fucking you be miraculously cured in a few months. What's the harm?
Yeah, exactly. We could start touting some therapy.
Miracle cure,
we couldn't do that here on YouTube, but on Rumble we might be able to get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever. Then we start selling that.
Yeah, on a Rumble
Like we could have made it on both ends.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As you can see, Russell is still in London, and we're going to do a brief recap of some of Russ's travels over there. He's in London thanks to you guys. Sent him there for his wonderful coverage of the Day X protests. But as you know, if you watched last show, he had a little mishap with the Airbnb when he arrived. And so thankfully, our friend and supporter came through for us, Ian Puddick. Has an Airbnb that he was so kind to let Russell stay in for free. That's where Russell is now. And to recap Russell's journeys in London, we're going to bring our friend and supporter and ass saver of this trip. Big round of applause in the chat. Big round of applause. He really came through for us big. Ian Puddick. Ian, what's up?
Good evening, guys. So, yeah, it's nearly midnight here.
Yes, it's a late one. It's a late one.
That's how we roll, man. That's how we roll. Or that's how I roll. Keaton, it's fucking 7.
Yeah,
I mean, with his diagnosis, he can't really stay up.
No. It's going to pull through. It's going to pull through.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
So, dude,
I do have chronic IBS, which gives me cancer scares every now and then, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, that's why
it's just
sometimes
Jewish stomach.
That sometimes he's squirming around there during
the
show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the IBS. We are all about representation here. So not only did we want to thank you and give our audience a chance to thank you for coming through truly as a true dissident. In the words of our president, he recently came out as a fan of the show. You don't believe me?
I am a dissident.
That's right. We're going to get to that later. But Donald Trump has endorsed this podcast. This is now a MAGA endorsed program. Yes.
I am a dissident.
It's his favorite show, apparently. So, all right. We are all about representation here. And if I'm going to trash the cuisine of your island nation, we felt we should have a British person here to defend the nation. So I'm not gonna go through this without having a British person to talk about their country. Hang on. All right, let me get back to the beginning. All right, so this is my whirlwind tour of your nation. All right, so Ian, have you been to the Tower of London?
I supply the Tower of London. So when you go into the Tower of London, there's a pub, but it's not open to the public. So I make a special run for the Tower of London. So if I'd known you were going, actually, I could have, got you to have a look.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course.
Didn't I tell you I was going? All right, so hang on. Since you mentioned that,
got some free shipping out of him. Send them there and say, hey, I need you to bring a case of rum over there while you're going.
Hang on, one second.
All right.
You've also had 666 on Rumble.
That's right. We have 666 over on Rumble. Good catch, Ian.
Since you mentioned it, this is Ian's gin. So can people order this?
Yeah, on my website.
You don't have to be a royal. You don't have to be a member.
No, but it helps.
It helps. It helps because you do actually supply.
I do.
Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, House of Lords. Yeah.
All
the places normal people don't go.
So you both campaigned for George Galloway and you were a committed royalist.
I never said that.
All right. By the way, all right. So this is, this is going to be because Aaron is coming to stay with you, right? Max Blumenthal is coming to stay with you, right? You've emailed back and forth with them. You've offered them, and now I can guarantee them you'll have a wonderful time. Ian's not a serial killer. You're not gonna, it's wonderful. It's an amazing place to stay. So this is gonna be like back in the '60s where they had their like radical underground network. So since you make gin, we're gonna codename you Beefeater.
Okay.
Hey, you going to stay with Beefeater?
There you go.
Out at the place. But I took a picture with one of the yeoman wardens there, who apparently they're still military.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're considered actual military. Yeah. It's not like Disneyland. They're not just dressing up for show. So if you go to the Tower of London, it's considered still a military facility.
Yeah,
now. Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, no, they're all Ministry of Defence, and they're not civilians. They're actually soldiers, so actual real military. You know, because you can work for the Ministry of Defence but not be a soldier. No, these are soldiers. Yeah.
And to even get this job, apparently, you have to have put in at least 22 years in the service. Difficult. And you have to have gotten like certain specific commendations to even apply to get this gig.
Did you see the size of the tiny living quarters that they stay in? Did you see them?
No. Oh. The inside of them? No.
They're tiny.
So they give them shit accommodations?
No, they're nice, but they're tiny. They're so small.
See, I figured it was like a sweet retirement gig. I will say this, because I'm a professional tour guide. And so this guy was like, you had to have been like a sergeant or a sergeant major or something to get the job. He was a damn good tour guide. Yeah. Like I assumed he was an actor until he explained the background.
AJ, if you're watching, hi, that's my contact there.
This guy was very good. He was very good. Like as a professional, he was as good as it gets.
And did you see the crown jewels?
Good comic timing, good projection. What's that?
Did you see the crown jewels?
I did see the crown jewels. They don't let you take pictures of it, though.
No, that's right.
And unlike at the Sistine Chapel, you can't really sneak it. They're keeping an eye on you.
They used to.
At the Sistine Chapel, they say that too, but everybody does it. They used to let you take pictures?
Yeah, years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago. You could do it.
And then they changed it. Yeah, that pissed me off a little bit. But all right. Okay, so this is what a lot of people know the Tower of London for, the executions. So that's an executioner's block. And back up there, if you look back up to the left, that's something they would use to like compress your body. They would put like the ankles and the wrists and the head in there. So according to a lot of people are saying if Trump gets elected, everyone's going to be in one of those.
Well, that was Nikki Haley's green room had the same setup. When I was in New Hampshire, I got a peek backstage, where Nikki Haley was hanging out before she came on for a rally, and it looked very similar to that. A little more modern, obviously, but same idea.
I could see that. So you're saying Nikki Haley is the real threat?
Yeah, exactly.
This election.
Has she got any chance? Has she got any chance?
No, she's done. We're going to cover that later.
No.
So that is a toilet, which theoretically, if you take that glass off, it would still work, right?
Yeah, just straight into the Thames. Straight into the river.
There's just like a sluice there down the side of the castle. That's what they used to do. Like the ship would just roll down the side of the castle.
But the banks of the River Thames were right up against the castle, so all of that would go into the River Thames.
Right. Well, they were saying because the moat was around and they would bring in the water from the Thames, but the Thames was so full of shit and animal carcasses and sometimes human carcasses. They were always getting malaria.
Yeah.
They were always getting these pestilential diseases there.
Yeah, loads.
So
it was one of the first examples of chemical weapons is the soldiers at the tower back in the day would dip their arrows in the dead carcasses and all the crap and then fire them. And obviously if it got you in the arm and you survived, you would die anyway because you would get poisoned.
Right, the longbowmen. Right. And they didn't have any kind of modern disinfectants for the body at that time. No. So basically, so this is called the White Keep, So basically it would be white at the top and brown at the bottom, I would imagine, with everything tumbling down the side there. All right, so now we got to get into this. All right, so Ian sent me to Borough Market, which looked very cool. All right, so this is one thing I've noticed here. People are much more willing to eat outdoors in shit weather than they are in America. Like Borough Market, it's all outdoors, man, and it was raining, it was nasty, and people are like sitting outside eating. I was amazed by that. I was like, I'm not doing that. So finally I found a pub that was like right out of American Werewolf in London. It had the fire going, it had books, it had the darts, it was the classic British pub. So I ordered the fish and chips because they said they had the best fish and chips in the market. It was all right. It was all right. I don't know that I'm that even crazy about fish and chips. It's usually kind of greasy. But you know, I maybe should have taken you up on where you wanted to take me. So I'm gonna show some people now. British people, this is not gonna come as a shock to you. Americans, get ready because you are about to find out about a horror of which you have not even contemplated. All right. All right. So explain this, Ian.
I cannot explain it. So it's a restaurant. It's over 100 years old, still run by the same family, the Kelly family. And this is a really, really simple English, or certainly a London dish, pie and mash. So you would have a scoop of mashed potatoes, and then they would make their own beef pies, and then beef and onion pies, and then on the side they would serve hot steamed eels, sliced.
Okay,
sliced
that's the part.
Eels. It's delicious. It's fantastic. And then they would cover the whole thing in a green sauce, and the green sauce is, they call it liquor. So you think it's alcohol, but it's no alcohol. It's liquor, which is a parsley sauce. Loads of vinegar and black pepper. It's fantastic.
All right.
Now, these are dying out. These restaurants are closing because they're just, with the whole
imagine that. Really?
Shock horror.
Now people are hooked on that pizza and spaghetti and meatballs.
on the fish and chips that you had earlier, if you get fish and chips in a pub, it's going to be okay. But there's one. I'm not an advocate. I'm not get any money for this or whatever. There's only one fish and chip restaurant in the whole of London, in Holborn, which is in central London, called the Friar's Delight, and they still cook fish and chips in dripping in beef fat, whereas all pubs, all fish and chip shops, it's really unhealthy, but it's delicious.
All right. I'm a nut. Like, I want to see all of the, must-see kind of things, and I have very limited time. So I don't really have time to do like a real food tour like that. That would have been interesting to try. This, listen, man, if I like I told you, I just don't even have time anyway. But the eel thing honestly really put me off, and your description did not help. But the other thing sounded okay.
Yeah.
You know what I wish I had that sounds pretty good to me? Like a shepherd's pie. That sounds pretty good.
That's lovely. Fantastic.
That sounds pretty good. Like what? It's like ground beef and like mashed potatoes.
Yeah, and sliced onion and lots of herbs and spices.
So in fairness to the British, I haven't had a shepherd's pie, so maybe that's good. The eel thing, man, like if you put it in front of me, I'd have to do it on like the double dog dare principle. I'm the last generation of man that feels like I have to do things if you dare me, or otherwise I'm not a man. So if you dared me to eat it, I probably would have eaten it. All right, so this is the Highgate Cemetery, which, like, this is the cemetery out of an Anne Rice novel. Ironically, more than anything you're going to see in New Orleans, like that really just gothic kind of just fantasy almost, because you have this section is an Egyptian section that's very famous.
I've never been. It's only up the road.
No, I was just going to say.
Yeah, it's only up the road.
You're from here, right?
Yeah, it's really close. It's really close. I've never been.
How the fuck did you not go here?
Well, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, so growing up as a child or a teenager, we weren't allowed to do any of these things, if that makes sense.
Why don't you do it now? Like,
that's a good point. No, absolutely. I've got a little boy, so yeah, it's definitely be on the bucket list this year to visit, of course.
Well, you have, like, right behind me, you have the hammer and sickle there. You haven't gone to Mark's? I'm kidding. He doesn't have a hammer and sickle there. But okay, they have, so you can see, like, it's this very, like, almost a movie set of a graveyard.
Yeah, it is.
Here I am with the grave of Douglas Adams, who you might know wrote
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yep. Which I didn't even know this, man. I feel bad now. Apparently you're supposed to leave a pen. If you look closely at the bottom, you can see there are all these pens sticking up if you look, like, right at the bottom of the gravestone. Because I actually sent my picture of it to somebody and they said, "Did you leave a pen?" I was like, how the fuck did you even know about that?
Yeah, you leave a pen. A writer. If it's a writer. If someone's passed away and
I've never heard that.
A writer or a poet, you leave a pen.
I never heard that in my life.
Yeah.
Now
nice looking.
I feel bad. I feel like I gypped Douglas Adams. I feel like I gypped
Well, when I
him.
go,
felt
I'll put a pen in
well-deserved
for
bad.
you.
And then people, if you go to our X and you look at the video, people left 42, which, if you read the books, you'll get. It's the meaning of life. But the big one for our crowd, and I did this as a gesture of kinship with our communist friends. There he is.
Karl Marx.
Died there in London. Apparently he's buried next to a woman who was a famous communist, but I didn't get her. I was kind of in a rush to meet my daughter. So I was trying to get all this in. All right, so meal number 2. This is the only good meal I have had since my plane landed, frankly. This was at a very well-known Chinese restaurant called the Four Seasons in Chinatown. You know what I'm talking about, Ian?
There are loads. There's just loads. There's just so many there. And they're all related. They're all related. They're all related, all the restaurants. This is my cousin. That's my brother.
You mean like they're all part of the same groups and families and everything?
Yeah. That's my brother over there, my cousin, my sister, my uncle. They're all related.
Honestly, that's kind of like the bodegas in New York.
Yeah.
You'll have like 30 people from Yemen who are all related, who are running all the bodegas in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
This place was known for their roast duck. Fantastic.
Lovely.
Roast duck was great.
Lovely.
My daughter ordered the noodle dish. I can't remember what type, but that was really good.
Yeah.
The wonton soup was good. Everything. Honestly, man, that was the only good meal that I've had.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent.
Well, see, that's, a lot of people have joked to me as I've talked about this. They say, well, that's why the British became such good sailors, to go find food.
Yeah.
And
colonize and take over other people's countries.
They took other people's. I mean, honestly, as I walk around, it's funny because when I was a kid, I loved the Arthurian legend, and so I went through an Anglophile phase. Now you can't really walk around with all this, monument to Victoria and that kind of thing without thinking about how that wealth was brought into the country.
No, of course.
You just can't.
And that pub that you've got in the picture there, the 10 Bells, it was originally.
You know what it is. Go ahead, tell them.
It was originally called the 10 Bells, and then it changed its name to the Jack the Ripper. And then, it must be 10, 15 years ago, they changed it back again to its original name, the 10 Bells. But just round the corner there, one of Jack the Ripper's victims was killed. So that's why they changed the name for marketing purposes. So it was the Jack the Ripper pub. But the original.
That's too on the nose.
Yeah. So they've changed it back to what it was originally called. And I think it's up for sale at the moment, actually, the pub.
Oh, is it?
I'm 99% sure that pub is up for sale.
You hear that, patrons? Fundraising drive. All right. Well, according to my tour guide, all of the victims of Jack the Ripper drank there because it was kind of a hub for the neighborhood's lower elements.
Yeah.
And it goes back to 1750, which that's a weird thing for an American. Like you have all of these pubs you would just go into that are from the 18th century. That's inconceivable for an American. And it's commonplace. It's just, oh yeah, this bar's been here since 1810.
And did he go through the suspects on the Jack who was Jack the Ripper?
He did. He favored the theory that is basically in From Hell. He favored the theory that it was the doctor of the Queen because Prince Albert had been having an affair with this woman and they had an illegitimate child. He recommended a book by Stephen Knight. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been a nut for Jack the Ripper.
No.
I'm not
it's interesting.
Ripper file. But hey, I'm in London. I was like, I'll do the Jack the Ripper tour. So I went in there, had a pint. What's that?
Did you drink lager or bitter?
I drank a local. What was it? Camden Hell. That was the name of the.
Hell's Lager. Yeah.
That's what.
It's nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Nice.
4.6 alcohol.
Yeah,
a lot more than we get. So that is the Rosetta Stone at the British Museum. So the British Museum, it's interesting. There's all the shit that they stole from everybody. But in their defense, they make the museum free. So if you're going to steal it, at least let people see it for free, which they do. I'll give them that. Now,
It's the kind of people we are.
Yeah, they're big-hearted people. So now I will tell you, this is kind of interesting because I know something about this. So in New York, the Attorney General is investigating the collection at the Museum of Natural History, which is our closest equivalent to the British Museum. No, I mean the Metropolitan Museum is our closest equivalent. They're examining it. Okay, so by the time we took over, by the time the torch was passed, you couldn't just go and loot openly like that anymore. So we did it the American way. More money, more money, more money. So for several decades, the person who really, I forget his name, but the person who really built the collection of the Met would just, meet you in an alley with a sack of cash. Not literally, but basically for decades, the acquisition policy at the Met was, let's just say that rare artifact fell off the back of a truck. How much you want for it? We don't need to see any provenance. It's fine. We trust you. And they would just buy that shit. So that's how we basically did the same thing, but we did it with money. We just bought things without asking any questions about where they came from. But you guys just stole that shit outright. So there you got. And it was interesting because to listen to British conservatives, you would think, oh, the whole country is going to the dogs and nobody has pride in Britain anymore. Listen, the British Museum made a couple of accommodations to say things. I had the audio tour like, yes, and there is some controversy around how this was acquired, but they're not like, yes, we stole that. Like there are all these things that are like, yes, and I'm not even kidding about this. Yes, we were asked to take this, or this was given as a gift, or this was in a state of total destruction, and then we were given permission to restore it. Like they really allied how they got a lot of this, particularly what you're going to see next. These are the famous Elgin marbles, which the Greeks are still very mad about and still asking to get them back. This is what used to be, this is fragmentary portions of what used to be on the Parthenon, on the pediment. Now I was just there, and it's interesting to see the originals because this image, as it would have been complete, is all over Athens. Like they really mourn the theft of this stuff from the Parthenon.
How can we acquire all this stuff? As you say, it's just nonsense. I mean, if you buy stolen goods, you're complicit. You might not have stolen it, but you are complicit.
Well, because technically they got the Elgin marbles from the Turkish, right? Like because the Turkish were governing Greece at the time.
That's right. They stole it.
So this I've never seen. You have like mummies just straight up. Yeah. Like we don't. I guess by the time we were throwing money around, these things were priceless, and the British had claimed all of them. So I've never seen that in my life. I've never seen like mummies openly displayed. We have sarcophagi, things like that. We don't have mummies. All right. So my last meal in England. So my daughter was married to a foodie. She's not anymore. So she knows all these places. So she tells me, oh, yes, well, yeah, there's nouveau British cuisine and it's elevated. All right, so this was their nouveau take on a Sunday roast, which I didn't realize was like a British thing.
Very, yeah.
Because like we have that phrase in America. Nobody does it anymore, but we have like that concept. So I ordered like the lamb.
Was it good?
No. And that, if you look at the corner of the plate, I didn't even know what that was. That's Yorkshire pudding.
Yeah,
what
lovely.
The fuck is that, man? That's
just like, I've had one today.
That's just.
Yeah, I've had one today. And did you fill it with lots of hot gravy?
I did.
Good.
I did.
Good.
I mean, it was fine. I don't get it. Like it's just a fucking batter thing. It's just like it's just cooked batter.
Yeah. It's really healthy.
I mean, I didn't even finish. I finished the Yorkshire pudding because it's like whatever. It's beef gravy with like batter soaked in the beef gravy. Like, why wouldn't you eat it? The lamb, I didn't even finish that shit. And the potatoes, I want to point this out. All right, so the potatoes you see sitting on the middle
They
plate.
look good.
All right, so they call that roast potatoes.
Yeah, they look great.
The way they cooked it, and I guess maybe this is the way you guys make roast potatoes. It's more like fried potato. Like it's more like a fried potato. Like it's got that crisp on the outside. So it's not like the way we make a roast potato.
So
What we would think of as a roast potato.
So that should have been partially boiled potato, and then transferred into the oven, and covered in duck fat or beef fat or something like that, and then you just keep turning them so it looks like it's been fried, but it's actually cooked in the oven. Crispy on the outside, softer on the inside, and tasty.
I mean, to me, it was almost like a big French fry.
Wow.
Like it felt more like eating a French fry. Wow. And the lamb was like whatever. I mean, listen, she was happy. That's all that matters. My daughter was happy with her food. I was there for her. And then finally, what's that, Ian?
Is that the Admiralty?
No, it's Buckingham Palace.
Oh, it's Buckingham Palace. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, I've been in there.
I was like, I happened to see it was close. I hadn't had time to get to it. I was like, all right, fuck it, man. Cross it off the list. Now I've seen the Buckingham Palace. I made a very inflammatory video that we won't show here. I'll put it up on X. If anyone's curious, I'll throw that up tomorrow when I get a chance. Talking about the idea of a crowd still gathering in front of gates. Oh, is the king at home? What I think a crowd with real balls would do with a place like this. that at best we could show that video on Rumble. We definitely could not show it here.
It's just as you're looking at, as one's looking to, so you've got the center part to the right, in the far right hand corner was where the Queen's private secretary's office was. And when you go in there for a meeting, in his office, he's got his huge, really old desk and some tables and chairs and a little meeting area. And when I was last in there, he had the most amazing picture, and the picture was of a UK postage stamp. So it was like 700 mil by 500 mil. So it was a big. That was the print, and then it was in a beautiful, beautiful frame. And what an artist, the young student in Scotland had done, is they had created a huge first-class stamp out of and created a montage using literally hundreds, if not thousands, of very small, because a British first-class stamp is very small. It's it's smaller than an inch or 20 mil. And he just literally overlaid the Queen's face over the Queen's face and created one huge stamp. It was beautiful. And I looked at it and I just said, that's just amazing. He said, yeah. And they sent it down and using that as the stamp. I said, well, it would have got smashed to bits in the British Post. And it didn't, apparently. It was incredible. Incredible.
I mean, I gotta say, and I've always said this. The idea of having a monarchy is just the strangest thing.
Aren't we fantastic? Aren't we gifted?
Just I had some people, and we're going to get into this on Tuesday when I have more time to put together exhibits. Some people were asking about, because I asked some of the patrons that I met at the Assange hearings about the free speech here, and some people were like, "That's crazy," and you yourself went through something like that.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. I mean, I was arrested more than 10 times under the Terrorism Act by the terrorist police. I mean, I'm a big guy, as you know, but I'm a complete wimp. I'm not a tough guy. I'm born again wimp. But the police, they brutalized me in custody, wiped the CCTV. I'm completely non-violent. Russell, if you and I are going to have a fight, you're going to have better trainers or sneakers because you're going to have to try and catch me. There's not going to be a fight. But they went to town on me. I won every case. It got debated in Parliament. But free speech is a huge issue. I
talked to my daughter about this. My daughter, if anything, favor some speech limitations. Although I don't want to speak for her. She's never said that. That's my assumption. But she said, we talked about it today because I was bringing this up. She said, no, Britain doesn't have freedom of speech. It never really did.
Yeah. I mean, you could stand in Oxford Street or Leicester Square and say terrible things about all sorts of things.
Right, and which I've seen.
And you'll be fine. Fine. But there are certain things that you can't criticize. And therein comes the issues. I mean, when I was being arrested every 5 minutes by the terrorist police, so we had a court date for me to go to court. And I went to Speaker's Corner. I don't know if you went to Speaker's Corner at all.
Not this time.
Yeah, I went to Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, and I did that for 14 months every Sunday before my trial. And they would send undercover terrorist cops into the audience. Now, I'm very respectful. I don't shout and swear. I'm not going to use so-and-sos and bad language. I don't speak like that. It's not in my nature to do that. And they would try and I always knew who they were because they would try and say things to rile me up to say something. But because I don't speak like that,
you for
it's fine. Yeah, absolutely. But they threw the book at me. But I won everything, which was good.
All right, I'm gonna try not to say anything that's gonna get them breaking in the glass in your beautiful Airbnb tonight. I'm a little concerned. I'm like my last night in England. I better keep it clean. All right, Ian, we got segments to move on to.
Cheers.
Brother.
My pleasure.
Gracias, amigo.
Big round of applause for Ian. Thank you so much.
Oh, you know what I'm sending you, man? I'm sending you a New York special, man. You know they have a saying at Katz's Deli in New York. Send a salami to your boy in the army. We're gonna send a salami to our boy in England.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure.
Big round of applause for Ian for helping us out. Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. All righty, folks. Once again, round of applause for Ian. Jake is in the house. Field and Rumble rants tonight. Round of applause for Jake. Like I said, we do have segments to get to. We are doing our post-show Q&A over on Rumble tonight as well, so we will be switching over there. We're also doing a segments on Rumble. We're doing a multi-part segment on the Taylor Lorenz, Chaya Raichik sit-down conversation. I'm convinced Taylor Lorenz and Chaya Raichik are actually the same person. It's like a Fight Club thing.
A lot of people said.
I think that's why Taylor Lorenz wears
very
the mask,
similar voices,
so that you can't tell that she and Chaya Raichik are the same. Not only do they look
separated
the same, they sound the same. They have the same manner of speaking. They have the same attitude too, kind of refined, passive aggressive. Oh yeah, you don't think? Oh, well, whatever. We'll get to it then. But let's get to a little bit.
It's like a particularly bizarre Disney movie where it's the two sisters who are completely opposite.
Yeah,
and
that's what it feels
they're
like.
going to switch places.
Yeah. But they do seem like sisters. Evan Gerhardt, mushroom or pineapple piazza, mushroom or pineapple pizza, serious inquiries only. Well, I don't know.
I'm going to pick neither. I mean, look, mushroom is a traditional topping, so that's not a party foul. That pineapple pizza shit, that's one of those things that tells us you're not serious about pizza.
I mean, I don't like mushroom, so I have to give it to pineapple by default, even though I agree. I don't eat mushroom. I hate it. I hate the way it feels on your mouth. It slips and slides around. Mushrooms. It squeaks on your teeth. You're eating a food. That's what the sound the mushroom makes in your mouth. Horrible. Ooh, sends a shiver down my spine. I can't eat mushroom.
Well, that's the chemo. The bottom line is if a pizza is good, it should not need toppings to make it good. It should be good just with the cheese and the sauce.
Yeah,
that's a good pizza. People outside New York, they throw all this shit on it to make it taste like something. It tastes like crap otherwise.
That is true. A good pizza does not need a topping, just like, a good steak does not need a sauce, right? Something's good doesn't need to be added all together. All right, folks, we're going to do a little American news tonight. Our boy, friend of the show, Donald Trump, cleaned up once again in South Carolina. 60-40, Donald Trump 59-8, Nikki Haley 39-5 in South Carolina. Now, Nikki Haley did not drop out of the race. She is staying in for God knows what reason. We'd have more to say about this were she to have dropped out. But we do want to hear from Donald Trump, who followed up his South Carolina victory. I shouldn't say followed up his South Carolina victory. These happened on the same day. But this clip surfaced after the fact, obviously, of his speech at CPAC. So let's take a look at Trump at CPAC.
The fact is, Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. He really is a threat to democracy. I stand before you today not only as your past and hopefully future president, but as a proud political dissident. I am a dissident.
Oh!
Remember this, I've been indicted more than Alphonse Capone, Mr. President. Do you know who that is? Even the president just said, I do. Scarface, Al Capone.
He's mentioned this before.
If he had dinner with you and he didn't like the smile in your face, he thought you were mocking him by smiling, you would be dead before you got home and said hello to your wife. And Alphonse Capone, I got indicted 4 times by this gang of thugs for nothing. Or, as I say respectfully to the people from foreign countries, for bullshit.
Out of respect. I say that out of respect for the people from foreign countries. Bullshit. Let's hear that again.
Or, as I say respectfully to the people from foreign countries, for bullshit.
All right. So, there are.
So there you have it, man. We have the MAGA endorsement.
I am a dissident.
I am a dissident. That's right.
That's
I
it.
am a
You heard
dissident.
You heard it from the man himself.
Couple things here. So, first, I said all along this was going to be really the macro theme of this primary and the general election race to a large extent as well. Why am I blurry? Focus, camera focus, come on. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. A major focus of the campaign was going to be the weaponization of the state against the ordinary person, a very us versus them kind of campaign. And that campaign always favored Trump. That theme always favors Trump. And none of the other candidates were able to make any inroads on that issue, which is, as you can see him here talking at CPAC, same thing. They're coming after me just like they'd come after you, right? They're really coming for you. I'm just in your way. That's the theme he's hitting on there. And the second part of this, of the reason why no one can touch him, even not Nikki Haley in her home state, nobody can get anywhere near him, is because Biden's numbers are so weak. Right. If Joe Biden were in the mid to high 40s, you may have that extra 10 to 15% of Republican primary voters being like, yeah, we love Trump, but I don't know. Looks like Biden might win if we nominate this guy who's just got too much baggage. But because Biden's numbers are just so in the toilet, he's in the mid to high 30s, they feel confident enough to go with this guy and this theme of I am the dissident. Yes, I am the victim. Just like you are the victim of a government that doesn't care about you. And that's where a lot of this migrant stuff comes into place. You got people. That's why he's winning a lot of working class people, a very diverse group of working class people this time. Biden's at 56% with African American voters now. Trump is in the teens. RFK is in the teens. Cornell is in the teens. Not like Trump has gotten, 45. But part of the reason why those numbers are so down is because people get the sense that their government is for everyone but them. And he's been able to just get in that lane and gun it 100 miles an hour. And it's easier to do that with Biden's numbers as weak as they are because the Republicans have a lot of mojo. The voters are feeling pretty confident. So why would they pick DeSantis or Haley? Fuck it. If you think you got a shot of winning, you're going to go with where your heart is. And their heart is with this guy. And it was a great day for him yesterday. Really, the primary was locked up prior to yesterday, but now it's official. Haley, she's staying in case he is thrown in jail, at which point they're not going to pick her anyway. They'll just pick somebody else. So she's just insane for sticking this out. But he's just been able to pick that lane and dominate.
Well, hang on. Where's that poll? All right. So I really think you're sleeping on Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, he was able to get 3,000 votes, I guess, in
he's not
very
even
early
running,
voting.
So here comes Ron. Here comes Ron. So, yeah, the secret of his success in 2016, obviously, was just this absolute hatred of the establishment. I've always said with him, Americans love a slobs versus snobs story. And he plays that role very well, right down to his routines, his bits have a very Rodney Dangerfield quality about them. His whole bit about Biden getting off stage, that was like a classic Rodney Dangerfield bit. Yeah, you see him, he doesn't know which way to go. He's walking, he's going this way. The more just disconnected from the public our elites are, the more loathing, well-earned loathing they have from the public. The more Donald Trump's policies, they're really quite beside the point. I will point out again, Donald Trump in his final year in office gave the Pentagon more money than they asked for. He gave tax cuts to those same hedge fund managers that he said he was gonna hold accountable when he was running. Donald Trump didn't do shit for you. He had very similar policies to any traditional Republican. I think he was genuinely better to a certain extent on war for reasons we can speculate on, but I think we can agree he was not as eager to get into new military engagements as previous presidents. I'll give him that. But the idea that he's this champion of the people, I mean, it's a joke. We saw what he did the first time he was in office. But the brick through the window quality that Michael Moore described in his pitch for Hillary Clinton, where he was absolutely right about everything except the fact that you needed to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Right. Yeah,
but he was absolutely right in his entire assessment of why people were drawn to Trump, that it was this brick through the window. How much more do people want to throw a brick through the window now than they did in 2016? And that's why you're seeing those numbers with black voters, because you already had articles after 2020, that infamous New York Times article showing that blacks in Milwaukee, it was, right, didn't vote for Hillary because Obama hadn't done anything for them. So you couldn't, by the time you got to Hillary, you got the first black president, he didn't do anything. You're going to persuade them that this aristocratic white woman is going to do something for that community. Why the fuck are they going to show up to vote for her? Now, all the more so. Another 4 years of Joe Biden, I will remind you, Donald Trump was the only president to do anything to undo the deranged sentencing guidelines that were laid down in Joe Biden's crime bill that he co-wrote with segregationists. He's been in office 4 years now. Did he do anything? He says that they say, well, that was then. Okay, so why hasn't he done anything to further dismantle the consequences of that crime bill? Where's he pushing marijuana legalization and pardons? Where is all that? Where is that? So why would a community that this president specifically, I would argue, has done more damage to black and brown communities than any living and certainly any active politician in the country? Why the fuck are they going to come out and vote for him when whatever redemption he might have promised when he came in, he fucking increased funding for the police?
Right.
So why are people going to come out and vote for this guy?
Yeah, no. I mean, he's fighting for freedom in Ukraine. That's the pitch. That's the pitch. Freedom in Ukraine.
Freedom in Ukraine. And Donald Trump functions for more and more. I think that's what you're seeing. First, he functioned as this brick through the window, primarily for a certain kind of white working class voter from these towns that had been decimated and deindustrialized and fucked over. The pool of people who see Trump as a brick through the window has expanded.
It's expanded exactly
beyond that core.
Absolutely. All right. Eddie Duffy, thanks for becoming a new member. Appreciate that very
Thank you,
much.
Eddie. That's
Metal
a cool
Martin.
picture, man.
Oh, heard this was the spot. Oh, what'd you say? Good to meet you. You met Eddie Duffy?
No, I said cool picture.
Oh, cool picture. Metal Martin, heard this was the spot. Maiden. Yes, actually, we owe the Rumblers a Maiden. We got about 1,400 of you guys over on Rumble right now.
Yeah,
2,090 here in YouTube.
If our friend Motley Jew is watching, all right, so now that I've met some fans and none of them have stabbed me in the neck, and not more to the point, now that I know I'll be in New York in November, I think I will join you for that Maiden concert, my friend.
All right, beautiful. Nice. There you go. Russell's got a date. A foreign object. Thanks for the 1999. Let this be the first donation to the Dobular Legal Defense Fund for the lawsuit against the Airbnb and that old bat with that no Wi-Fi bullshit. Appreciate everything, particularly the Assange coverage, or for Keaton's chemo fund. Thank you. Thank you very much. People took Jimmy's joke seriously. Have those people been on lockdown since their childhood? It was a joke about very short hair. Keaton looks fine. Yeah, I mean, I got the joke. It's just when you have a big audience and you do a deadpan delivery, few people aren't going to get it. And when you have a big audience, a few people's a few thousand, a few percentage. So I got some well wishes that I don't think I need, knock on wood. Fallen Idols, Bernie D. Dr. West, now Brother Gavin from Vanguard, seems fit to coddle and platform Putin right-wing so-called journalist Glenn Greenwald. Thank you. Coddler. Roachy Boy, I tried to book with Ian in late April. He seems to be fully booked all through April. Would love to catch up and try his gin if he is unavailable to put me up. I think he's watching right now. Maybe he'll send the chat to you in Rumble. Well, now that Russell stayed there, this is now a famous place. You know, it's a famous place. Now it booked up quickly, you know. And now it's a due dissidence bungalow.
Now
it's branded.
Now it's basically a due dissidence safe house.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that was like an act of God. Like he like for this place to be available last minute like that, he said it's never open. It's always booked. So we just got very lucky. Just worked out.
Indeed. Turner Smith, thanks for the $9.99. Is post-duopoly ready to give Trump credit for stopping the World War III bill? This is one of the first moments where post-duopoly is in danger of losing credibility in MSM style. Oh, no, I didn't realize that. Are we in danger of losing our credibility? I didn't realize that. Whew. It's a good thing you warned us. Wanted to get your take. Thank you, Turner Smith. No, we did give him credit. I said he was right to kill the bill. He was right to torpedo the bill. When we covered that story, we said that he should have done that. It was an easy political decision. There was no price to pay for it. And so it made total sense for him to do it. And yeah, obviously, that was a World War III bill with $20 billion of border funding thrown in as pork. So yeah, we said he should have done it.
And honestly, I mean, part of being post-duopoly is we're not aligned to a party. Like we have no problem saying, yeah, no, we're in the bizarre position where insofar as there are people standing in the way of World War III, they're all Republicans. None of them are Democrats.
Right, exactly. And at the same time, we can dunk on Republicans. We're going to do that one right now, actually. Here's a crazy story. Here's a story I would say only in America is this possible, but really more specifically, only in Alabama is this possible. Alabama Supreme Court ruling raises questions about IVF access. From ABC News, experts are speaking out after the Alabama Supreme Court ruled Friday that frozen embryos qualify as people under state law, a decision that critics say could threaten families' access to fertility treatments in the post-Roe era. It could get them some more seats in Congress, though, and some more votes in the Electoral College. I mean, that's a real population boom there, according to the Supreme Court, that these embryos are people. In an unprecedented decision, the state's highest court ruled that, quote, unborn children are children without exception based on developmental stage, physical location, or any other ancillary characteristics. Alabama Chief Justice Tom Parker quoted the Bible, in a concurring opinion, citing the sanctity of unborn life. Okay, well, that explains.
Well, that's not at all disturbing.
Yeah.
When you start quoting the Bible as, and the same people who would uphold this, who would say that that's great because it's a Christian nation, are the same people who will be going on about the horrors of Sharia law.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
what is that? What is that? That's Sharia law. You're governing by Sharia law.
Of course. Dr. Mamie McLean, an infertility specialist at Alabama Fertility in Birmingham, Alabama, told Good Morning America the court's historic ruling could impact the future of in vitro fertilization treatments for those trying to access fertility treatments, adding that for her, the ruling left more open questions than answers. Let's find out why. We're concerned that this ruling has far-reaching consequences for what we feel is safe to freeze and safe to discard, McLean said. Doctors like McLean warn the ruling could block access to IVF, make the process more expensive, or lead to some clinics closing altogether because of legal risks. This ruling is so incomplete, and it leaves those of us who are sitting face-to-face with patients with the inability to comment on what is safe and what is legal for them right now, McLean added. The case on which the court ruled Friday involved two couples who sued a patient who had managed to access the freezer that stored frozen embryos at an Alabama fertility clinic. The patient picked up multiple embryos and accidentally dropped and destroyed them. The High Court ruled that the patient could be held liable in a wrongful death lawsuit. That's why this is creating a crisis, and here we go. February 23rd, Alabama's biggest hospital to suspend transfer of embryos after court ruling. Alabama's biggest hospital announced it will no longer be shipping any embryos out of state or to another facility just days after saying it was pausing IVF treatments. The developments come in response to a state Supreme Court decision that said frozen embryos are considered children. Several families told ABC News they were considering moving their embryos out of state in order to continue IVF treatment. University of Alabama at Birmingham Hospital said it has been unable to identify shipping companies that are able and willing to transport embryos. So now not only can the hospitals not have them because it's a liability risk if they are discarded wrongfully, quote unquote, or dropped accidentally, but now a shipping company, yeah, they don't want to be on the hook for 300 deaths, if something happens to them, right? On Thursday, two more Alabama fertility clinics said they will stop providing in vitro fertilization treatment. This is a good mob thing. Hey, I got 400 embryos, fell off a truck.
Like
you.
They're gonna have to call the Lyft and the Uber drivers to bring these out of state.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say I can give them a sample. Mine are still good, apparently. On Thursday, two more Alabama fertility clinics said they will stop providing in vitro fertilization treatment. Alabama fertility specialists and the Center for Reproductive Medicine in Mobile have each decided to pause treatments, they announced Thursday. We have made the impossibly difficult decision to hold new IVF treatments due to the legal risk to our clinic and our embryologists, Alabama fertility specialists said in a statement. We are contacting patients that will be affected today to find solutions for them, and we are working as hard as we can to alert our legislators as to the far-reaching negative impact of this ruling on the women of Alabama. Alabama fertility specialist vowed not to close its doors and said it will continue to fight for our patients and the families of Alabama. Quote, at a time when we feel so powerless, advocacy and awareness is our strongest tools. Check back in later today for links to advocacy opportunities, the group said in a statement. Okay, so we talk a lot about on this show about the dire state of the Democratic Party and how its brand is in the toilet and how Biden's poll numbers are rightfully in the tank. If the Republicans want to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory this year, just like they did 2 years ago, great way to do it with shit like this. Just absolutely batshit insane rulings like this, to the point where even a lot of their politicians have distanced themselves from this, including the most important one, which we'll get to in a second, but go ahead.
Yeah, that is the proviso on everything, because remember, everyone thought the midterms was going to belong to the Republicans, and you're seeing again and again that there is a Roe backlash vote that doesn't necessarily show up in the polls for whatever reason. But then once you get to the voting, boom, you have all of these people who are voting on that, even in these deep red states, because motherfuckers need abortions there too. It's something that whatever rhetoric people have This is just something that touches everybody's lives. There are very few people in America who are so religious that, you know, when they get freaking knocked up in the back of the Dairy Queen, they're going to have the kid. And they do not want the government telling them that they have to have that child under these kinds of circumstances, or, you know, on a more serious note, rape, incest. They don't even want to make exceptions. I'm right now I'm staying in New Orleans, and I gotta say, look, I don't live there, but I have a pretty good eye, man. That place is definitely not. People say after Katrina it changed a lot. I'm sure that's true. I'm not close enough to it to really comment. But I was there pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and sure, the pandemic happened, but something else happened. The Roe v. Wade, and Louisiana has some of the most draconian laws. So what I think happened, because I'm telling you, that art scene that I saw in 2019, it's gone. It's gone. I mean, in pockets, I suppose, but it's just not there. I think these people left because the surrounding states they could still work in, right? New Orleans locked down like blue style. Florida, Texas is right there. I think they went over there, and then they fucking outlawed abortion. Who the fuck? Look, artists are not the least promiscuous people in the world, all right? It kind of comes with the fucking territory. Who the hell's going to come back from that field to live in a place where you could get prosecuted in a situation like that? I think it was a double whammy, honestly, that kind of like sucked a lot of that, what remained of it, out.
Well, the thing about this isn't even abortion. This is about making it easier for couples who are having trouble conceiving to actually have a baby. So, as Donald Trump says, under my leadership, the Republican Party...
Very intelligently, I must say.
Of course.
There's a very smart statement. He's got a perfect brain. This is a perfect statement.
It's a beautiful statement. Under my leadership... The Republican Party will always support the creation of strong, thriving, healthy American families. We want to make it easier for mothers and fathers to have babies, not harder. That includes supporting the availability of fertility treatments like IVF in every state in America. Like the overwhelming majority of Americans, including the vast majority of Republicans, conservative Christians, and pro-life Americans, I strongly support the availability of IVF for couples who are trying to have a precious baby. Today, I am calling on the Alabama legislature to act quickly to find an immediate solution to preserve the availability of IVF in Alabama. The Republican Party should always be on the side of the miracle of life and the side of mothers, fathers, and their beautiful babies. IVF is an important part of that, and our great Republican Party will always be with you in your quest for the ultimate joy in life. He didn't put a MAGA at the end. He usually does that.
He usually does.
But this was the problem. This is why Chief Justice...
And that's very smart framing, frankly, to frame it as being pro-family, right?
Well, yeah. And this is why Chief Justice John Roberts was lobbying the conservatives hard not to overturn Roe v. Wade, because it's not a prudent ruling, because there are a million things downstream of that you don't anticipate once you open that door, such as not only hospitals being afraid to handle embryos because now, oops, an accident, now you're on the hook for a, quote, wrongful death. People who ship embryos, do truckers want that responsibility? Fucking Chicago Ray, does he want there? Some motherfucker, I ain't fucking driving no embryo down to Alabama. Hell no, fuck that. He's the guy who wanted to boycott New York City over the Trump.
We got to get that guy on the show.
Yeah. Well, you think they want to deal with that shit? No one wants to deal with that shit. It creates nightmares that you can't anticipate. And that's why it was as disastrous as it was when that was overturned. And that's why the Democrats still have a card they can play. As fucked as they are, they still have a card to play. Now, it's not enough to save Joe Biden because of the young voters and the Arab voters, but it could be enough to get a Gavin Newsom over the line. If they swap him out for a generic Democrat, this issue could be the thing, could be their Hail Mary that's actually catchable in the end zone.
That's it, because we were all surprised by the midterms. So that is the one thing. Now, I've been saying all along, you're probably going to get a split decision, which would be consistent with that. I think a Republican wins the presidency, but I think because of this issue, Democrats hold on to one, if not both, or take both chambers. The Republicans have, this much of a majority in the House. It wouldn't take much to flip the House. So you could wind up with Democrats with both the Senate and the House. I still think the presidency will go to a Republican because on the Democrat side, it's just such a shit show. I think you're probably right. They're going to swap out Biden. That's not going to work. Like, you can't.
No, I mean, as of right now, Newsom is actually polling worse against Trump than Biden. They're starting to poll Newsom versus Trump. He's actually polling lower. Yeah.
All right. So we're planning on having a Nissan. I'll do a little victory dance there because we had it out about that a while ago.
Well, we'll see. I mean, like I said,
I was always very skeptical of Newsom's chances as a national candidate.
They're still better than Biden's at this point, even with those polls being lower.
I think you're right because
he's less of a known quantity. He can make up ground where Biden can't.
Well, and what's going to happen when they try to put Biden on a fucking debate stage? What the hell do you think is going to happen?
Of course.
Like whatever they shot him up with last time, I don't think he's got enough brain cells left to animate for that long.
In response to the Alabama Supreme Court ruling that embryos are people, which therefore imperils hospitals and all handlers of embryos, because if they make a mistake now, they are on the hook for a wrongful death legal action. Someone in the media, I forget who this person's name was, she caught up with Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, who asked him about the ruling. Now, don't forget, Donald Trump had the common sense to come out against this ruling. Even Nikki Haley originally said she thought embryos are babies, but even she walked it back to be like, well, no, we shouldn't make it harder for this treatment to exist. Here is Tommy Tuberville being asked about this, clearly not knowing the first thing about what he's talking about.
With NBC News, I wanted to ask, do you have a reaction to the Alabama Supreme Court ruling on the fact that embryos are children?
Yeah, I was all for it. You just got to look at everything going on in the country. It's just an attack on families, attack on kids. Anything that we can do for the future of our young people, because they're our number one commodity.
Yeah, certainly. The smallest possible thing that we can call a human, if they call it a human, that's good. I'm all for that, right? That's the way we do it here in Alabama. Any microscopic organism that can conceivably called a human being, I understand I'm supposed to say that's a human being.
As a great man once said, we are stardust.
Exactly.
We need to have more kids. We need to have an opportunity to do that. And I thought this was
this
the right
is about an opportunity
IVF
to do
is
that.
used to have more children, and right now IVF services are paused at some of the clinics in Alabama. Aren't you concerned that this could impact people who are trying to have kids?
Well, that's for another conversation. I think the big thing is right now you protect, you go
for
back
another
to the
conversation. How is that for another conversation? What other conversation could that possibly be for?
That's a good dodge. I'm gonna start using that.
Yeah, well, that's for.
I mean, that's an easy one.
You were going 91. Yes, that's correct. Now you're aware it was a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Well, that's for another conversation. Yeah. Well, what the speed limit was?
Are you going to pay that child support? Well, that's for another conversation.
That's for another conversation.
I think the big thing is right now you protect, you go back to the situation and try to work it out to where it's best for everybody. I mean, that's what the whole abortion issue is about. So
but this really isn't about abortion. It's about IVF and the concern that now families might not have access to it.
I'm already committed.
It's about the same direction, but I agree. But people need to have access. People need to have. We need more kids. We need the people to have the opportunity to have kids.
IVF is not a Democrat or Republican issue. Families across the board use it. What is your message to the Supreme Court if this does in fact stop families from being able to use IVF?
Well, we don't need that. I'm understanding with that. We need people to have an opportunity to have kids. Okay, that's my
so
whole.
Just take the L. Just take it back.
Sure I do. I understand that. I mean, that's not my decision.
Okay, so now you don't agree.
They should be able to. Yeah, should be.
Oh, okay, got it wrong. Okay,
Sure
good.
they should.
Nice save.
Do you agree with the Supreme Court decision or not?
I'd have to look at what they're agreeing to or not agreeing to. I haven't seen that. Okay.
So first he says yes, then they explain to him why actually it's an anti-family ruling, not a pro-family ruling. So he's like, well, no, I don't agree with that. And so she's like, wait a minute. Okay, so you said yes, then you said no. Let's get it down. Do you agree?
That's not my decision.
No, it's not my decision.
No, They should be able to.
Okay, now they should. Okay, now I oppose the ruling.
Sure, they should.
Sure.
Do you agree with the Supreme Court decision or not?
I'd have to look at what they're agreeing to and not agreeing to. I haven't
Okay.
seen that. Okay.
That's for a different conversation. You should have gone back to that one.
Okay, so you know what? There have been a lot of journalists, the very few who are not just looking for access, who have been in the halls of Congress. And again, this is a rare breed who got up close and personal enough with these people to be able to share with you what they're like without wanting more access by not telling you what they're actually like. The few journalists who've been willing to talk about it have pretty universally said these people are dumb as dog shit. Like, you would not believe how stupid the people in Congress actually are.
Yeah.
They're performers. You know, they're William Hurt in broadcast news. You know, they're a face for interests that are behind them, basically, who put them in that position. But they're just dumb show ponies.
Yeah, well, it's also a logic trap for the Republicans because, their pro-life views are downstream of their core belief that life begins at conception.
It's not. I mean, I guess at this point you have enough of them who are legit evangelicals that some of them believe it, but it was always a vote-getting scheme from the day divorced Ronald Reagan announced his pro-life position. That was really when this shift happened.
Oh, of course. But now that, the tiniest possible thing you can call a human ought to be called a human, according to the Republican base, when a politician is asked about it, they're forced to say, well, yeah, I agree, right? That's just the knee-jerk thing. Oh, this thing is a human, right? Yes. But then you have to think, okay, take it out of the abortion issue and into a realm like this, where actually treating an embryo as a human life, all the legal implications that follow from that actually make the creation of life more difficult, right? That's an unintended consequence of being pro-life in the first place. And all you have to do is draft legislation, even if you are pro-life, even if you want abortion outlawed in a state, and I obviously do not agree with that, obviously, but I'm saying any Republican politician who actually takes a second to actually inform themselves on the issue instead of go in front of a microphone like this fucking asshole, right, and just spout it off, oh yeah, no, life, yeah, sure, that's a life. You create a carve-out for that, and it doesn't have to be the end of the world for you, but this is one of these issues that is going to come up, and just a total nightmare.
Well, I have to ask, and this is a philosophical thing I've been wrestling with, and I'm usually looking at it among the liberal class, but it's true among conservatives too. Is it our culture? Is it our society that you can never leave something the fuck alone? That you always have to take things to a further and further extreme? Like that you can't just be like, good, we're in a good place. Right? Like you won Roe v. Wade, right? So, but it seems like, is it a national character thing that, okay, well, now that we outlawed abortion, we have to outlaw condoms. Like, does that have to follow from that? Now we won gay marriage. Now we need gay porn in the public schools. Like, does that have to be the next step? Like, you can't just be like, done. It seems like no one in this country can do that. No one can say, all right, good enough. We're in a good place. I'm done with this issue. Is it all the not-for-profits that make their money off
what are you gonna do?
Outrage, just can't give up their grift, so they keep ginning up more outrage? Is that what's driving?
I think that's a lot of it.
That?
Yeah, there's always has to be a next frontier. Otherwise, you have nothing to do. And if you have nothing to do, then you kind of fold up and go away. And a lot of people, a lot of organizations don't want to do that. Jake, you got the patron scroll ready for us there, my friend? Because you can go to patreon.com and support this program if you would like to help us out. That's really helpful and important. Patreon.com/do dissidents. becoming a member there or on Substack, dudissidents.substack.com, or on Locals, dudissidents.locals.com. We have a great crowd over on Rumble right now, 1.7 thousand over on Rumble. If you hit that join button under the screen, that takes you to our Locals, where you could sign up for as little as $5 a month. You get your name on the show notes here. You get call-in access to our post-Sunday show Q&As, which is obviously coming up in a little over an hour after this show. And you also get access to 2 supporter-exclusive streams per month. We are doing our second one of February this week sometime. We haven't finalized either Wednesday or Thursday. It'll probably be. We'll work that out tonight and have an announcement on Tuesday about that. But that's what we give you for your support. We try to make it worth your while. And you guys, our supporters, our members, are the backbone of this program. So patreon.com/dudissidents, dudissidents.substack.com, or Rumble viewers right now, you can join our Locals with a click of a button. Hit that join button underneath the screen, and you can sign up. It is truly a huge help. That is what keeps our show afloat, no doubt about it. The Napski. Thanks for $4.99, the Napski. Keaton, tell Jimmy that listening to Iron Maiden 2 minutes to midnight will help his hair. There you go. Beautiful. Good idea. J.A. Savage, speaking of pizza, just today, KFC on YouTube showed a picture of Chizza, a pizza on top of a fried chicken thigh. Only in America. Yeah, that sounds quite awful. That sounds really bad. Really bad. Wow. Was that an ad on YouTube that you saw? Yeah, that sounds terrible. England pretends it's still in the Middle Ages, says J.A. Savage. What was the KFC sandwich that they had where they had, like, the chickens as the bread, and then there was something in between? It was like a sandwich.
Oh,
yeah. 2
yeah.
pieces of chicken, and then you bite it, and I forget what was in the middle.
Otherwise known as the worst idea ever.
Yeah, that got around. I forget what was in the middle, but yeah, that was quite something. Off topic, but 3/17 is Save Palestine Day in Ireland. There's supposed to be a huge rally in March. Okay, good to know. March 17th, Save Palestine Day. That's also St. Patrick's Day, isn't it? There's supposed to be a huge rally in March. There's a big rally on March 2nd in New York City at Washington Square Park. Saturday, March 2nd. Yep.
Yeah.
I might go to that one. I'm going to try to get to that one, actually. Richard Pemberton.
Oh, right. You were saying you might cover it, right?
Yeah, I'm going to try my best to get down there. Richard Pemberton, thanks for the $50. Beautiful. NBC News headline ponders, if Trump wins, will the U.S. become isolationist? I'm not sure Trump is as much an isolationist as NBC fears he is, but if they really want this guy to lose, why do they keep giving me reasons to vote for him? Yes, good point, Richard. Good point. And thank you very much for that very generous donation. Nikki wants to lose to none of the above again. Yes, she lost to none of the above in Nevada, right? Because Trump's name wasn't on there. Is that when that happened? Turner Smith, Trump is most viable liberal option in this race. Good point. Virtuoso, at this rate, Joe needs a new shutdown. Yeah, that seems to be the only thing that could save him, and I don't think it would. In fact, I think it would have the exact opposite effect.
Probably.
Homesick Alien 80 for $2. Russ, did you eat any pasties, Russ?
No, I have not.
Here's another England question from Roachy Boy. N13 is a pretty close to Hampstead, one of the poshest areas in London. Plenty of good food through there.
I don't know, man. My daughter made me go to this place, and it was very posh, and the food fucking was dog shit. So I don't want to. I want to hear anymore from fucking.
No more recommendations. You're gonna be on a plane in a few hours.
Oh no! What you have to do is go round the corner, down an alley, down a flight of steps, and then you turn around 3 times. You got to pull a brick on a chimney, and then you go behind the wall. There's some good food there. Enough. Your fucking food sucks. Deal with it.
Deal with it. Just admit it. You know, you're great in a lot of ways, just not that way. You know, America, we're terrible in a lot of ways too. You know, we're also a terrible country. Roachy Boy, thanks for the $1. The
just
mixed grill in British pub. Yeah, is a plate of full various fried meats. Classic British irony because it's fried and not grilled. Is that what that means? The food of Britain is the food of poor people. It's the style of food you get in the world with few rich riding on the backs of the poor. You know, I understand what you're coming from, but there's a lot of great
there's
peasant
a lot of
food
great
in the world.
cuisine based.
There's a lot of great peasant food. Italian peasant food is great. American peasant food is pretty good.
It is of many varieties. In fact, what we think of as Jewish food in America is really Eastern European food. That's total peasant food. That's why you have all those fucking carbs, all the potatoes, because it's for working in the fields. That food is great.
Yeah. Apozimiosi, thank you for the £5. Could you please talk about the imminent collapse of both Labour and the Tories in the UK with the reemergence of George Galloway and the Workers' Party? I wish we could. I wish I knew more about that. Maybe Ian can call into the question and answer and give you an answer.
I mean, honestly, yeah, Ian, if you're watching, one thing that being here has shown me is I need to dig more into British politics. Like, we're so focused on American politics, and we do some stories. We make a point of doing it, but it's a much more complicated topic that we both need to study up on, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, indeed. For sure. Christos says, Keaton, I envy your sharpness. Wow. Well, thank you, Christos. Appreciate that. Like the compliment, but I'm sure you're sharp yourself. P. Walker says, Biden is about Ukrainian border security and expanding Israel's borders into Gaza. Yes, good chat. Good message. Very, very smart and absolutely correct. Russell has cojones of a bull. I love you guys. Thank you. Kenman says Michael Moore is a fraud and a shitlib. You know, Michael Moore just endorsed the uncommitted vote for Tuesday. Tuesday's a Michigan primary, so we'll be talking more about that. Yeah,
he did.
But you know, a lot of these uncommitted people
do it in
are
the general.
Right, like our revolution said that they're endorsing the uncommitted for the primary, but not for the general. Like, if you're not doing it for the general, it doesn't make any sense. Right, exactly.
It doesn't give you any leverage. It's the equivalent of the strongly worded letter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when Michael Moore's Planet of the Humans movie came out and was censored off of YouTube on a bullshit copyright claim, which was really censorship, he reached out to sites. He had an open call for anybody with a website with a decent following, which at the time our blog did get pretty good traffic. So we reached out to him. I wrote a review of his movie, which I loved, and he wrote back to me. We shared a few emails back and forth, and we ended up posting that movie on our site. So I have had contact with Michael Moore, and I would actually love to talk to him if we could. I don't think he would come on. It's probably, too big for us, but I would love to talk to him about that Michigan
thing. You never
thing.
know.
Because Michael Moore is a guy who, as Russell said earlier, he goes right up to the line of being totally correct in regards to, like, what is the appeal of Trump versus Hillary, but then he always reverts back at the last second to, well, vote blue. So, just like, Thomas Frank is a guy who I admire greatly, but sometimes I feel like stops just short of getting the right conclusion. I feel like Michael Moore is in a similar camp. And so I'd like to bust his balls just like I busted Thomas Frank's if I could get the opportunity.
Yeah, Michael Moore, I got to say, especially for some of our younger viewers, you can't overstate what a fucking revolutionary voice he was when he dropped Roger and Me and Fahrenheit 9/11.
And Bowling for Columbine.
There was nobody doing that kind of content. You didn't have the online world like this where you could hear voices like that on demand. Like, to see that in a movie theater at that time.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy.
There was nothing. He was one of a kind. Yes, in later years, he has become a vote blue no matter who person, which is disappointing. And he does it in that way. Like the town hall that he did in Michigan, where he made the case for Hillary Clinton. That is exactly where Michael Moore is, right? Everything he said about why Donald Trump was appealing was correct, and then his conclusion is, so vote for Hillary Clinton, which, that's him now.
Indeed.
Doesn't take away from what he's done, though.
No, I mean, and for those who, if you haven't seen Bowling for Columbine, you should, because I know a lot of the populist left is divided on, gun rights. And so that movie, you go into that movie thinking it's going to be about gun control, and it's really not. It's really more of just about violence and American violence and an examination of why this country and this culture is so violent. And it's an absolute masterpiece. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, somebody mentioned Sicko. Sicko also.
Sicko's
Even
great.
I liked
Yep.
his last one. Where should we invade next?
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
think it
yeah.
was called. I thought that was really
Yeah,
good
that
too.
was good. No, it's entertaining stuff. It's great film. He's a great filmmaker. Fantastic editor, funny, insightful. Yeah, good stuff. He very much like Thomas Frank, I feel like. A lot of great things to say. Always comes up a bit short when it comes to sticking the landing.
Putting it into action.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go overseas once again. Let's hear from Victoria Nuland. Victoria Nuland, now they're bringing out the true deep state functionaries, putting them in front of the camera, trying really hard to get this Ukraine money through. Now they're putting Victoria Nuland on camera, straight out of rehearsal. She is playing Ursula in The Little Mermaid, apparently. That's what that set is behind her. Oh, no, those are flags. Sorry. I thought that was the set of The Little Mermaid. It looks like Ursula's throne, and she looks like Ursula. So I thought that was where they had her broadcasting in from. But no, those are flags of different. Okay, now it makes a little more sense.
That's the next Disney reboot.
Little
Mermaid, the genocide edition.
The genocide edition. Here she is making a pitch for funding for Ukraine.
It is, and I do hear you and the others. It is, and I do hear you and the others in the administration and supporters talking about the vital necessity to do this. But as people say, hope is not a strategy. And do you have any actual belief or reason to believe that eventually this bill will be paid? And if not, how are you going to make sure Ukraine gets vital weapons and ammunition?
Christiane, I have strong confidence that when the House comes back after they've been out in their districts hearing from the American people, after they have heard from Ukraine, they have heard from Europe, which, by the way, just...
That's great. I trust that these members of the House, after hearing from the American people in their districts and from Ukraine and from Europe, because obviously nobody back home in any district is going to say, hey, what's going on with this Ukraine funding? How come we haven't gotten that out the door yet? I guarantee you nobody's saying that. Nobody is telling anybody in a remotely vulnerable district, hey, what's up with the Ukraine funding? Why haven't we gotten it out yet? Maybe Dan Goldman's hearing that at a town hall in the West Village somewhere. But nobody out there in America.
Sadly, you're probably right.
Maybe. Even he probably not. But there's a chance.
One thing that's been interesting here, I've just run across more than one pro-Ukraine protest because a lot of the Ukrainian refugees are here.
Right.
They're not really in America; they're here.
Yeah, you said you ran into one.
I ran into another yesterday.
Wow. All right, let's just keep going.
Comes back after they've been out in their districts hearing from the American people, after they have heard from Ukraine, they have heard from Europe, which, by the way, just passed $54 billion in additional aid itself, that we will do what we have always done, which is defend democracy and freedom around the world, not just for victims of tyrants like Putin, but in our own interest in preserving a free and open international order.
What about the victims of tyrants like Benjamin Netanyahu? We're gonna pass $60 billion for them? Oh no, that's right. Gaza got 10 in the last aid package. Ukraine got 60. Gaza 10, and we gave $14 billion to the people who were dropping the bombs on them. Interesting how that works.
We do business with several monarchies, and not a kind of like half or pseudo monarchy like I'm in right now, like actual monarchies like Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Kuwait. Do these people have freedom? Do these people have democracy?
No, we're actually bombing Yemen now. We actually bombed Yemen after all that's been done.
World, not just for victims of tyrants like Putin, but in our own interest in preserving a free and open international order. That's what we need to do. We've done it before. And by the way, we have to remember that the bulk of this money is going right back into the U.S. economy to make those weapons, including good-paying jobs in some 40 states across the United States.
Oh, it's a jobs
Talk about
program.
saying that's when they're getting desperate, when they start saying that part out loud.
Yeah, when they start saying, hey, by the way, the only jobs we haven't outsourced are the weapons manufacturing jobs, and that's what Chris Hedges talks about in one of his books. I forget which book he gets into.
America, the Farewell.
That was the Farewell Tour. Okay, that is a manufacturing base. Of course, we could just make direct investments. I mean, you had a Build Back Better bill, which had all kinds of direct investments. They're very simple and easy to make, like paid family leave, permanent child tax credit, universal pre-K. No. Trust us. The way to go is we're going to pay some of you guys to make weapons that we can go agitate World War III with Nazi battalions against a nuclear armed power. That's really the New Deal you want, right? That's the kind of economic transformation that you're looking for. Oh, yeah, no, like I think when members of Congress go home to their districts and hear from Ukraine and Europe, okay, they're not hearing it in their districts. What a crock of shit. That is desperation right there. That is a desperate pitch when they're bringing her out of the shadows. They couldn't get Blinken to nail it. They couldn't get Sullivan to nail it. Now they got to go to Victoria Nuland. They got to put her on CNN. I mean, who's next? Who's next? I can't think of anybody else.
That's sexist.
Yeah, that's right. That's sexist. I forgot.
Excuse me, I'm a little concerned that we haven't passed this that there Ukraine funding because I'm very worried about Vladimir Putin and his intention because Poland is next. You know it. You know that's what they're hearing at home. That's what they're hearing. I feel like this must be what it felt like in 1787, where your elite class just becomes increasingly absurd in how it frames issues and just it's apropos of nothing. It's these people are daily delegitimize their right to hold power and to wield power. And I as I often make clear, I think in all of this, it's the liberal class that continues to make excuses for these people that I find most contemptible. At least these folks are getting something out of being evil. What do you get out of supporting this kind of vacuous? If ever the phrase "the banality of evil" applied, it is in the case of this administration. People like Anthony Blinken and Victoria Nuland. Like, you see all these fucking people trying to run around and put a good face on fucking Joe Biden's dementia. What's in it for you? Like, what's in it? What the fuck's wrong with these people?
They're terrified of Donald Trump. And you have to ask, why? Why? I mean, but this goes back to what we were saying on the last show, and what we've, a running theme of the show is that their critique is so divorced from anything material, anything real. Right. Like if you go on to like one of the lib podcasts or one of the lib shows now, I don't know, maybe they got over this, but as of a couple days ago, they were still incessant wisecracking about the golden sneakers that Trump is now selling for $400 a piece because he's on the hook for a few $100 million according to the court. Like, that's the news. That's the world they live in. They think he's a con man and a huckster and a scam artist for getting his gullible voters to pay $400 a shit. Like, that gets them.
They're not even good shoes. They're not even good shoes. I saw a black kid. He said, "These are not good shoes." He laughed at it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the news to them. They don't pay attention to stuff like this. They don't care.
Yeah, I see those memes floating around. Yeah. And they're the same people. I saw one today. This is going around with the fucking libs. If I were Joe Biden, whenever I was asked about my age, I would say, I'm too busy getting stuff done to sit down and get a spray tan and makeup, and if that makes me look old, I really don't care. And I said, for him to say that, he'd have to remember all of that.
All of that. Yeah, that's a lot for him to remember.
It would be a lot for him to go off.
He'd have to write all that down.
But it's just, how do you go so full emperor has no clothes? Like, how do you, even if you are a Democratic partisan, as Jon Stewart pointed out, if you really believe this about Trump, shouldn't you be, I mean, he didn't put it this way, but it's kind of implied, shouldn't you be screaming the loudest that Joe Biden needs to not be the nominee? instead of trying to fucking make excuses for how great he is. Like, what's
Right.
wrong with you? The man clearly has fucking dementia. What are you talking? Like, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. Like, is there no limit to what kind of bullshit some people can swallow? I guess not.
There's not. No. I mean, they watch MSNBC. The Republicans have surrendered to communists. Like, if that's not jumping the shark in your mind, what is? You'll believe anything.
Well, I'm hoping we're gonna get to the enemy of the people thing. So I was very
we'll get to
inspired by some of what I saw in the arts community here, and it reinforces my feeling about what's happening back in America. With all these arts institutions are collapsing, and if you saw my segment about my article on Jimmy's show, I if anything, I feel more strongly after seeing that. These places all need to burn to the fucking ground, man. They need to burn to the fucking ground and make space for a completely different cultural scene.
Figuratively, of course. Yes.
Figuratively. Second stage is moving out of they're giving up their space on 43rd now.
Right.
Across from where I just saw
it's across from Roy Arias on 8th Avenue.
Across from Roy Arias. Good. Get all of these fucking libs out of the culture. Get them out and restore it back to the people, because it's not a new thing. It's been deeply out of touch for a very long time, but now the times are too serious for that. And that's why they're collapsing, because they're not speaking to anybody.
Dave Dillerai, thanks for the $20. Oh, shit. You remember when I recommended that movie about UK whistleblower Catherine Gunn, Official Secrets? She blew the whistle about the Iraq War. Thank you, Dave. I do remember Official Secrets. That does ring a bell. I didn't remember that you brought it up. I'm sorry, but I will try and look into that. Thank you. Derek, did you see Glenn Greenwald praising the Vanguard for their journalism the other day? Yeah, he had Gavin on to talk about Vauch's masturbation habits, which, I mean, that's a great guest. They are the experts. I mean, look, they know that.
Who are they going to bring on? Us?
Yeah, who are they going to bring on?
What
Who
the
knows
fuck
about
we
that
know
better
about
than the Vanguard? I mean, that's a great topic for the Vanguard to talk about. They are true experts in how Vauch gets off, and so I'm sure, that couldn't have gone any better with anybody else. So shout out to those guys.
Who else in the space is vapid enough to be able to do a segment on that?
Yeah, exactly. So
I wouldn't know where to begin.
No. Russ, it's not that baked beans are odd or gross for breakfast. It's inherent in our digestive system. I grew up with beans and kipper on toast. Ugh. Come on. I'm pretty sure the entire British diet originated. You guys come up with things no one's ever heard. Baked beans and kipper on toast?
Like, you're just making it worse for yourself. You know that, right?
I think he's kidding, because Rifsai is Seb, our patron. So I think it's a joke. Now that I look into it again, I think it's a joke because Seb's a Jewish guy. Baked beans and kipper on toast. I'm pretty sure the entire British diet originated off a dare. Okay, so it is a joke. All right, I apologize. I should have read the whole thing.
Actually, to be honest with you, it's not the baked beans that bother me so much in the British breakfast. It's, whatever fried thing you have, the bacon or the sausage. They don't have a paper towel in the whole fucking country. You can't dry the grease off that shit before you put it on a fucking plate. I'm not even making this up. I have ordered British breakfast where literally the sausage was sliding around the plate because it was so fucking steeped in grease. You move the plate, it would skid around. So it's more that. The stewed tomatoes, that kind of shit. It's just the whole thing, the whole package is just not good. Believe me, not good.
Not good. Pretty exciting news, folks. We have about an equal number of people now watching on YouTube and Rumble. 2249 in the Rumble chat. 2276 in the YouTube chat. Yeah, so hit that follow button on Rumble. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Thank you all very much for being here. Jack Elam, cowboy actor, thanks for becoming a member. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Celeste says, what happens to women who have IVF where they usually implant multiple fertilized eggs to increase pregnancy chances and have implanted eggs not take? Very good question. Again, that's another question that raises. Again, you don't think of
25 to life for each one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the question. That's a good point, Celeste, and thank you for the donation. A. Hamilton, you can't go to England without having a Sunday roast with Yorkshire pudding.
That's what I had.
That's
And I
what he
had apparently a very elevated version of that, and it was fucking dog shit. It's total dog shit. Ew. Ugh.
J.A. Savage, are you guys going to talk about the deceased nursing student by the illegal alien? Unlike the MSM, they are silent because they support no border Biden. I haven't heard of that. Maybe they are silent because I haven't heard of it.
I've got an excuse for not having heard of that.
That's true. Russell's has a better excuse than I do. Gallup 223-24 reports 38% approval for Biden. That puts Democrats in a position to lose the presidency and the popular vote. You think Republicans will win the trifecta? Thank you, Cool Blue.
I would say it if not for the Roe v. Wade factor, because it keeps throwing off election predictions. So you have to assume there is a hidden Roe vote that doesn't show up in polling. Otherwise, the Republicans would have swept the midterms, right?
Right. Indeed. All right. We got a few more segments to do here, and then we're going to switch to Rumble for our final segment, our Taylor Lorenz versus Chaya Raichik segment, our Fight Club segment, we will call that. And then our Q&A. So we got plenty more show. Thank you all for being here. All right, folks, the G-20 was held in Brazil this year, and that was very fortunate timing because the U.S. isolated at G20 as Gaza crisis worsens, this reported by the Washington Post. The U.S. opposition to an immediate ceasefire in Gaza came under repeated criticism during a two-day meeting of the chief diplomats of the world's 20 largest economies in the latest sign of Washington's isolation on the issue. Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira, the host of this year's annual Group of 20 gathering, began the meeting by decrying the paralysis at the United Nations Security Council, where Washington vetoed a third resolution for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza earlier in the week. So the paralysis, of course, we know, is the fault of the United States and the United States alone, since the United States cast the lone no vote, with Britain, our good little lapdogs, voting present. They didn't even join us in the vote. They just voted present to try and stay as much on our good side as they can. Quote, this state of inaction results in the loss of innocent lives, Vieira said. The top diplomats at the gathering, which included Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, offered their views on various geopolitical issues in a session that was closed to the media so officials could express themselves more candidly. Oh, again, democracy, folks. Democracy in action. But this meeting had the opposite problem that the Day X hearings had. By mistake, a small group of journalists, including from the Washington Post, were able to listen in on the session because the audio headsets continued broadcasting the remarks unbeknownst to the Brazilian host. So at the Assange Day X hearings, the audio cut out, so the journalists couldn't observe what was going on. At the G20, the audio stayed on past when it was supposed to, and the Washington Post was able to do this write-up based on words they weren't supposed to hear. Australia, a close ally of the United States, supported an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and strongly warned about the further devastation that could result from Israel's announced military campaign in the southern city of Rafah, where more than 1 million displaced Palestinians have sought shelter. We say again to Israel, do not go down this path, said Australia's representative Katie Gallagher. This would be unjustifiable. South Africa, which has accused Israel of carrying out a genocide in Gaza, a charge Israel strenuously denies, said world leaders have, quote, allowed impunity to hold sway. We have failed the people of Palestine, said Naledi Pandor, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. The accidentally broadcast remarks created a sharp contrast with the G20 gathering last year in India, where Blinken sought to unite world powers in condemnation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At the time, Blinken found a more receptive audience when he invoked the United Nations Charter and the principles of sovereignty to criticize Moscow's land grab. But in Brazil, diplomats invoked those same principles to criticize the ongoing war in Gaza, which is, that's a land grab if ever I've seen one, for which the United States has provided Israel political cover and billions of dollars worth of bombs and military equipment. Final slide. If, for example, We had been united behind the principles set out in the UN Charter, said South Africa's representative. The tragedy in Palestine will not have lasted over 3 months. Blinken told reporters on Thursday that despite strong disagreements on an immediate ceasefire, he viewed the G-20 as largely united when it comes to goals in the conflict. Oh, sure. Sounds like that, doesn't it? Everyone supports trying to reach a hostage agreement. Everyone supports having an extended humanitarian ceasefire. Everyone supports finding a way to end the conflict, he said. There may be differences over tactics. Oh, tactics. Is that what you call carpet bombing 2 million people at once? Is that what you call murdering over 12,000 children? But we're trying to focus on actually getting results, Blinken added. All right, before I go to your take, Russell, on the substance of the piece, I just have to say, it sounds like these reporters here, what's the byline there? John Hudson? Sounds like he's publishing information that he wasn't supposed to have access to because those audio sets stayed on. Sounds like there's a spot in Belmarsh prison that, should be waiting for him, no? I mean, if we're going to be consistent, right? I mean, isn't that a crime? Shouldn't he be thrown into solitary confinement and have shards of glass put in his food and be denied winter clothing, jackets, apparel, excuse me, in the cold weather? Shouldn't he be treated that way? I mean, he's printing information he's not supposed to have, is he not?
Yeah, and I'll point out that Julian's treatment has been so poor in Belmarsh, he was not able to attend the trial.
Right.
And I knowing Julian, certainly what we know of him, his condition would have to be pretty severe. So we believe in justice. We believe in human rights. He's a relatively young man. So clearly he's being abused. He's being tortured if he could not physically be in a courtroom for that hearing.
For a life and death hearing. Like if there's any place he'd want to be, it's there.
Of course, even to see his wife, right? The mother of his children. Right. The fact that he couldn't do that, that is de facto evidence that the man is being treated with what we would call cruel and unusual punishment. It was just one of those great ironies that Navalny, who will be careful, we saw what happened with INN over there.
Yes, shout out to INN. We do have to remind everybody that, Navalny safe and effective.
Navalny is very safe and effective, particularly in regards to the Muslim community, or at least he wanted to have a safe and effective solution. You can go back and watch his campaign ad to see what that solution was for Navalny.
Yes, and I happen to believe that Rattle and Hum is one of the most underrated live albums of all time, too. I'll say that as well.
Absolutely. The live show, holy cow. They revolutionized music. Bono.
Amazing.
But at the same exact time, we're invoking some kind of moral authority in regards to freedom of speech and political dissent, literally the same exact time that Julian Assange is having his hearing. If that does not expose the core collapse in any pretense at moral superiority the West has, what more could we do to undermine it? And this is what you hear very often from countries that are outside of our direct control. For decades. I mean, you've always had, for everyone from Castro on, always pointed out this core hypocrisy that the West has: do as we say, not as we do.
Of course. And I would also say, with regards to what the reporters actually overheard, you see a United States not only isolate itself in front of the cameras at the UN, raising their hands to veto the ceasefire resolution, but now isolating themselves behind the scenes when no one is supposed to hear them. This is, in the long run, going to be terrible for the state of Israel. They are going to be a pariah on the world stage, and so are we. So are we. Don't forget the cumulative GDP of the BRICS countries is now greater than that of the G7 countries. And so who really holds the cards here? And how much longer can we afford to isolate ourselves in this way? How much longer can that go on? Because the momentum is clearly going one way the wrong way from our point of view, which I actually personally feel is the right way, right? A reckoning is long overdue for this country and the horrors that we have inflicted on the world, and it is coming. It's coming. It's not going to come militarily, but it's going to come diplomatically and eventually, yes, economically.
And economically.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, we covered. I it's a blur. I don't know if we did it on this show or on the Jimmy Show about de-dollarization, and countries are increasingly cutting down on their dollar reserves. This is a country that it's always been dismissed as a conservative talking point, and fair enough, because they like to talk about the deficit, never in terms of the Pentagon, only in terms of cutting social spending and social programs. But the core thesis that we can't just continue to run on this kind of debt is correct. Especially, the only reason we're able to get away with it is because we're the world's reserve currency and people keep buying our bonds as safe. Those factors go away, the entire economy is going to completely collapse. And don't give me that MMT shit. I'm sorry. They fucking stopped buying U.S. treasuries, and our currency stops being in demand. And this move towards not pricing oil in dollars gains momentum. We are fucked, man. We are completely fucked. This economy, you can't run an economy on influencers.
Yeah, indeed. Well said. Well said. That's a good one. I think we should title the podcast, "You Can't Run an Economy on Influencers." You should write a book. That should be a good title for a book. You can't run an economy on influencers.
Well, I was going to say, man, we should write a book jointly. Maybe that'll be the title.
Yeah, that could be the title. That's good. I like that. Tara Brait, Greenwald must be shocked by how many viewers commented and discussed as his glowing praise of the Vanguard and his interview discussion with Gavin. Look, Glenn is a super nice guy. He wanted to do a segment on Vosh, and look, he found the right guy. I'll spin that into a compliment in that way. If you wanted to do a segment on what kind of porn Vosh keeps in his computer, that's the guy to go to. That's the guy to go to.
Yeah.
Expert.
Those are the kinds of very important stories they cover.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You know how, like, when we have Norm Finkelstein on to talk about Israel-Palestine, Gavin is the Norm Finkelstein of, Vosh's jerk-off habits. So good on Glenn and good on Gavin. Well done. Woman killed can count as 10,000 murder charges. Yeah, theoretically. Good point. Indeed. All right, let's see. They lied to my mama. I can't say that. Don't say that part. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the warning. Thanks for the heads up, Butchfella. Appreciate that. Good looking out. Good looking out there. You say don't say that after. You're lucky. You're a lucky man. Thank you for the $5. This video is being suppressed. Please
Years
watch.
of work down the drain because Keaton wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, right. Exactly. How about you put in parentheses, don't say it after the word. Yeah, real nice. Real nice. Thank you for the $5. If you're gonna warn somebody, warn them before. Don't warn them after. That's too
late.
A little late. It's a good thing I have my what do you call it? My mouth moves slower than my eyes. I keep telling Russ every once in a while that trips me up when I'm reading the articles. I'll kind of lose my place and I'll get stuck on a word because my eyes move a lot faster than my mouth. So my eyes are like a sentence ahead of what I'm speaking, and sometimes I get tripped up. It's all worth it for that. All worth it for that. You saved me. It saved my ass. See? My weakness.
Saved you that time.
My weakness became my strength in that
Yep.
moment. Right.
Yep.
All right. Jesus Christ. Long story short. Thanks for the $2. Russ, isn't none of the above from Brewster? Don't say that part. After the Jesus Christ.
I'm telling you, I was reading it and it was like a slow motion car accident. I saw that coming. I was like, he's not going to read that. I was like,
don't
but you
say
caught
that
it.
part.
You caught it.
You know what that's like? But so my kid was eating a slice of pizza last night. And he gets down to the crust, and he's just kind of holding the crust. And the dog comes up and kind of like goes for the crust, and he pulls it away. And he doesn't really like the crust. So a few minutes later, he gave me the crust. So I ask him, I say, "Hey Sawyer, did the dog lick this?" He says, "No." So I put it in my mouth, and literally half a second later, he says, "I mean, just a little bit." I say, "Did the dog lick this?" "No." "Okay. I mean, just a little." After it was already in my mouth. That's what that reminds me of.
That's fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Russ, isn't none of the above from Brewster's Million?
You know, I never actually saw that movie.
Oh, okay. Me neither. Aspen Fallen, thanks for the $5. Michael Moore's Sicko made me believe in universal health care when I was 16 years old. I still think about that movie often in adulthood. It's a great movie. Absolutely great film.
I mean, that's why there's definitely a tendency, to be frank, this medium and the way the algo works encourages very extreme positions without nuance, right? And I think Michael Moore is a nuanced case. Like you can't just dismiss his body of work because he endorsed Hillary Clinton. It's an oversimplification.
His work is actually much better than like he is in interviews.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like his movies are actually a lot better than you would think. Admitting to war profiteering. Wow. Yes, Victoria Nuland. Indeed. SB. Thanks for the $5. You need to talk to George Galloway. He has been great since the Iraq War. He has been great on critiquing the woke left, boost all anti-imperialists. Yeah, we've been talking to Ian because Ian is in close contact with him. So we have expressed to Ian that we are very interested. I would love to talk to George Galloway. That would be an honor.
There's a good chance it'll happen.
Yeah, big fan of George Galloway for sure. J.A. Savage, Nuland is making sure disease X comes from Ukraine. Yeah. Scott George, thanks for the $5. The cookie lady is pure evil. She would eat children if it would help her god-awful war agenda. Thank you, Scott George. Let's see. How are we on Rumble Rants? Oh, we got quite a few. Trump fanboying about being a dissident may be worthy of a spot in the show's intro sound bites next time you retool it. Yeah, next time we retool it, we will definitely put it in. Yeah. We're going to maybe do an update
that was
for
the
election
first
season.
thing I said when I saw it.
I think for election season, we're going to add a couple things. Yeah, indeed. I am a dissident. Thank you very much. Okay. Embryos are human until they're born. Medicare, safe formula, housing, Flint, East Palestine, Gaza, Congo. Miscarriage will be cause for death penalty for poor moms. I don't think it'll be that severe, but you never know down there. Never know. Looks like Nuland has switched to eating
down
the
on the
cookies.
pea farm.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay. All right. We got some more super chats and Rumble rants to read, but we got two more segments here to do, and we will do the enemy of the people here because Russell's in London, so we should get to that one before you leave. And then we're going to switch to Rumble pretty soon, folks. But let's go to this segment. All right, this is my favorite segment of the night. We have been following every development of the Michigan Biden boycott started by Arab and Muslim leaders, starting with the uncommitted vote in Tuesday's primary, which we will be live as the results of that come in. So we'll get to see the strength of that. Don't expect Biden to lose to uncommitted, folks. I don't want to set your aims too high. A shit lib is a shit lib. A Democrat is a Democrat. But I think it will be significant. I think it will register significantly. And unlike our revolution and Rashida Tlaib and Michael Moore, who are doing the half-assed uncommitted, the founders of this uncommitted movement are determined to actually voting uncommitted or blank in the general election. And you'll see that reflected here. This is an MSNBC panel with 4 of these Michigan voters. And watch what they have to say about Joe Biden.
Pathway forward for you?
Sorry.
Is there a pathway forward for you with Biden?
Oh, absolutely not. You cannot keep killing people with our money and just keep thinking that, oh, we are stupid enough to elect you again because we'll fall in line. We'll forget. Like, this is an insult to me as a voter.
For you, Biden has a pathway forward.
Biden has a pathway forward. It's not
And what does
saying
that look like?
that is him calling for a permanent and immediate ceasefire. The straightforward, simple answer for the Biden administration is push for a ceasefire, stop aiding Israel in their war crimes, and I guarantee you there are enough people who would be willing to deal with it and vote for the man.
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I should have said I love 3 out of these 4 voters. This would be the exception. What do you mean he needs to secure a ceasefire? I'm sorry. Like, yeah, obviously we want a ceasefire, but in terms of are you going to vote for him? How has that ship not sailed? 12,000 children are already dead. There's no bringing them back. The idea that you would go back and vote for him if he secures a ceasefire now or a week or in a month from now, why? How is it not too late already?
Well, you can see this guy has vote blue no matter who tendencies that he's having a hard time giving up.
Yeah, this is the Michael Moore of the group here.
He's the Michael Moore, yes.
Yeah. And I guarantee you there are enough people who would be willing to deal with it and vote for them. It is, in so many words, insane to me to have the Democratic Party and the Biden administration sit here and essentially say, if Trump happens, it's your fault.
If you don't want a Trump presidency, then are you not worried about what he could do domestically to this country?
I am, it's like a vaccine. I'm willing to take short-term pain for a long-term gain. I'm willing to
this guy understands politics. Look at him.
Let go of Joe Biden and oppose.
I don't know what he's talking about vaccines. We all know the vaccines are safe and effective, so I don't know what that point was about. Of course they are. But yeah,
there is no pain.
Wonky analogy aside, right? There's
only bliss.
Right, there's only bliss, exactly. But wonky analogy.
I hear they're
aside.
calling the next booster the Nirvana booster.
Yes, exactly.
Willing to let go of Joe Biden and oppose Joe Biden, make him a one-term president, punish Joe Biden by making him a one-term president, and pairing his loss with the genocide in Gaza.
Boom.
Why is having a Trump presidency more important than those people's lives?
Yeah.
Why is our democracy more important than thousands of men, women, and children being killed?
That's my favorite, Annie Wisner. This guy's good too. But that.
Why is having a Trump presidency more important than those people's lives?
Yep. Yes.
Why is our democracy more important than thousands of men, women, and children being killed?
Boom! Ha! Woo! That's it. Why is our democracy, quote unquote, which look what they've already done. They've canceled the primaries, they disenfranchised New Hampshire, and then because Biden won, now they're going to count the votes because they got the result they want. I mean, what democracy are you talking about? You're talking about a democracy that has produced 2 psychotic and demented octogenarians. Trump is not technically that yet, but he will be if he wins. I mean, this is the democracy. So even on that score, like, what democracy are we actually saving by keeping Trump out? But on the second point, the much more important point, why is our democracy more important than these 12,000 kids who have been massacred? Why? Why do our lives matter? Because, I took a quick look at a former friend of the show. They wrote a Substack article about how if the left wants to connect with the working class, they have to stop talking about foreign policy because poor and working class people here don't have time to care about that. Well, I'm sorry.
Really?
Poor and working class people here are no more important than poor and working class people anywhere else in the world. And they're certainly no more important than children who are living in tents right now with their families, knowing that any second a bomb could fall out of the sky and that could be it for them. I'm sorry. I'm all for the working class here. But nobody in America is any more important than anyone else anywhere in the world. And what's happening now is an obscenity, a world historic obscenity. And the idea that we're supposed to fear the consequences for our institutions if Trump gets back in, and the idea that whatever harm he does matters more cosmically, spiritually, morally, matters more than the just unspeakable awfulness of what's happening in Gaza right now, that is Western chauvinism and, dare I say it, racism. And so that was just a beautiful response.
Whenever the left has been at its strongest, its most potent, its most ideologically clear, it has been at moments when the left has had an international perspective.
That too, yes. The labor movement was more effective when it had a global perspective than it is now under Sean Fain. Oh, ceasefire, yeah, but oh no, okay, all right, we'll endorse you anyway.
Right. When you look at how the radicals of the 60s and 70s spoke, it was very much with a global vision, with a global lens, particularly black radical leaders. Very much would put their struggle in the context of a broader worldwide movement against oppression, injustice, fascism, and authoritarianism. So I think that's a very foolish perspective to say that the left is more effective if we only keep to navel gazing within our country. I think it's good for the left to put everything in the context of a global struggle, because it is a global struggle. I think this Palestine has really brought up and brought to the surface the first world problems nature of so much of what American liberals and even a lot of people who think of themselves as left prioritize. That came up in another story we covered about abortion rights, where somebody was saying, well, what about the rights of the women who are being slaughtered and the girls who are being slaughtered in Gaza? Well, I'm supposed to put my abortion rights before their right to live, their right to be alive. How is that not a feminist issue? So, yeah, I mean, that is coming up with a lot of people who are refusing to vote for Joe Biden, and God bless them, man. Like, a lot of them are articulating that. Like, hey, the things you're saying I need to vote for Joe Biden to protect are things that these people who are being genocided don't have and can't even dream of having. So why is that a priority?
Of course. We covered the Bassem Youssef Chris Cuomo interview a while back, where he said, look, yeah, I'm all for reproductive rights. If you're in a state that doesn't allow it, you have a place to go. And now you should not have to go there, obviously. And there are people for whom a bus ticket out of town is not something that they can pay for. And so that's obviously a horrible situation, but they have options relative to a family in Gaza now crowded into Rafah with no place to go. The only thing they can do is pray that every second is not their last. That's all they can do. And so how is any problem that any of us face more important than those problems that people are facing there?
In the face of that, there are very few people in America, frankly, who have problems that are not first world problems by comparison.
By comparison. Exactly right. All righty. We will do one more segment here on the YouTube side, and then we will go to Rumble for our final segment and Q&A. Thank you guys for staying up with us. Wonderful crowd here. 2110 in the YouTube chat. 2879 in the Rumble chat. So we are knocking on the door of 5,000 concurrent viewers. That's amazing. Please hit that like button over on Rumble. Hit that like button, and please hit that follow button over there on Rumble. That's extremely important that you follow us there. And hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. P. Walker, thanks for the $5. The Pentagon's primary objective is to transfer wealth from the poor and unborn to the richest zip codes in America, not to wage, much less win wars. Thank you, P. Walker. No, beans and kipper is a legit meal. Oh, you weren't joking about that? Oh, wow. All right. Well,
I knew he wasn't joking about the food. That being like a food, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I didn't know that. Just realized with Keaton's haircut, you guys kind of look like Rick and Morty now. You guys, hey, didn't somebody make a Rick and Morty meme of us?
Well, I haven't seen a meme. I think somebody's made that reference, though.
Oh, okay. I thought somebody made a meme of us way back when. You guys are my favorite political dynamic duo. Thank you, Data Battles. Great show, guys. Thank you very much. Sparky, denazify Israel, free Assange, Victoria Nuland, evil personified. Thank you for those three, Sparky. We appreciate you as always. Okay, we got stupid sign. Best art is graffiti in cities. Best theater is crackheads and mental patients, also in cities. Very entertaining. Well, actually, our next segment is about theater. We get to do a theater segment. The Greenwald interview with the Vanguard dude was unbearable. The guy needs whatever talking Jews they hit Biden with, as he was almost incoherent. All right. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right. We're going to do one more segment here on YouTube, and then we are going to switch over to Rumble. The Rumble link, by the way, thanks to Jake for making this, is newdissidents.com/Rumble. If you put that in the URL, that takes you right to this live stream. Thanks to our producer, Jake, for making that redirect. That makes it super easy for you guys to get over there for the conclusion of this show and the post-show live stream. So after this segment, we'll finish out our super chats. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we will head over to Rumble, where we'll get the rest of our Rumble rants, finish out the show, and start the question
over
and
there.
answer.
We're gonna do the Taylor Lorenz, Chaya Ryachek interview.
Yes, the
in
Royal
which
Rumble.
People were shocked to find they were separated at birth, but we'll get into that over there.
Yes, right, exactly. Well, this is Russell's last night in London, and before he left, he caught a play, a Henrik Ibsen play called An Enemy of the People, and this is a wonderful piece of writing. I read this play a very long time ago, but talk about a play that is super relevant to what's going on now in so many ways. And apparently this adaptation was a very stinging critique of the aforementioned liberal class. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
See, this is why I wanted to see it, because it was very clear to me why you would want to do this play at this particular moment. For anybody who doesn't know, it's kind of a 19th century version of Jaws, where the town doesn't want to acknowledge it has a problem because it's going to cost them economically.
So there's a local doctor who discovers that a spa has contaminated water,
and it's a spa town. The whole town is based on this spa. The
right,
whole
exactly.
economy is based on it, and he discovers that it's poison. And assumes that everyone's going to applaud him as a hero, right? Because he revealed this great problem, and of course they all turn against him. And it's a very timely play at this moment of broad social corruption. Now, if anyone's a Doctor Who fan, fun fact about me, even though I liked sci-fi from childhood, and they used to play it on Sundays when I was growing up, I never got into Doctor Who. But Matt Smith played Doctor Who for a couple seasons. But particularly in England, a lot of people who pop up on TV are actually theater actors who go back and forth. So he's really a theater actor, and he was very good as the lead. So this was rewritten and reconceived by Thomas Ostermeyer. It's completely rewritten, set in modern times. He really did his own thing with it, and what he did with it was really great. So you can see here, this was what you saw when you came in. You couldn't take pictures during the show. But you get a certain sense of it just from this. I am what I am, the latest marketing slogan by an American sports shoe producer, is not simply a advertising campaign, but a military campaign, a war cry directed against everything that exists between beings, against everything that constitutes everything that invisibly links them, everything that prevents complete dissolution. So this was a really interesting approach and a very modern critique. And they turned the whole second act basically into a town hall where the leading members of the town basically debated with the audience. They gave microphones to the audience. And this was after the protagonist, which, this is not in the original play, gives this very impassioned speech that ends up being a critique of the liberal class. Because they forbid him to talk about the water. So instead he talks about the general corruption of the society. And he says this corruption, it can really be laid at the feet of the liberal class. It's the liberal class that puts a veneer of morality over this underlying corruption that has pervaded the entire society. And at that point, because they hadn't let people start talking yet, but it was clearly being opened up to the audience. They turned on the house lights. So when he said, I blame the liberal class, I was sitting in the second row, like right down through him. I went, now, because the theater audience is largely made up of the liberal class, I didn't get a lot of clapping. Now, one interesting observation, because I saw this with my daughter, the first few people who spoke were Americans. And Eden said that she has often observed that, and British people kind of commonly speak about this, that Americans are kind of brought up to be confident like that,
right?
To speak like that. And she felt it was telling that Americans were the first ones that spoke. Like they kind of had to break the ice before British, and some British people start getting in it. But particularly because of the problems and complaints that I have with what's happened to the arts in general in America, but particularly theater. Ironically, they're doing, or I guess it makes sense because it is so timely. Keaton tells me they're doing a New York City production of this.
They
not
are.
related
So yeah,
to this.
somebody asked us, where is this playing? So the production that Russell saw is in London, but they actually are doing
the Duke of York Theater.
The Duke of York Theater. This is coming. I think it's to Broadway. It might be off Broadway, but I think it's to Broadway. Michael Imperioli, who played Christopher in the
Okay,
Sopranos,
but listen, it's going to be complete. Yeah, it's going to be completely different because this is a total reimagining of this play. They kept the core plot and the core characters, but completely modernized it. And that whole town hall thing, obviously, is their invention. It was great. It worked beautifully. It was amazing. It gave me a lot of ideas. It really inspired me for what I want to do because I've wanted to find a way to introduce a kind of live theater element to the overall Due Dissidence project. But I've really been thinking about, I don't want it to be a bunch of actors trying to get a fucking gig with HBO or an agent. I don't want to deal with that shit. I want to do theater that's more based in the community. The idea of taking plays like that and bringing people in who are really activists and deconstructing these scripts and bringing in audience participation, that is probably closer to, I think, what people need now. And I think that in England, overall, people are a little more based. It seems like their arts community has not been so overrun by just liberal class shit libs. I'm not saying those people don't exist in that community. It's a community that seems to attract those people. But America is just so lacking in political consciousness, particularly in amongst its artistic creators, which is tragic because a revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having. You need people in those positions to do things like this. It is desperately important for political movements to have a means of spreading the message that is entertaining and engaging. It can't all be speeches and podcasts. So this is why I keep saying the theater, the arts as an institution in America, they need to burn down because they're sucking up a lot of resources that could be better used elsewhere, and they're gatekeeping, and not in a good way. They're gatekeeping so that you don't see plays like this. Because when he laid it at the feet of the liberal class, first thing I thought was, no American production at this level would ever have made that critique. They would never have said that because it would never get out of workshop.
Well, they'd have to do a lot of reimagining. I mean, this is obviously a reimagining of the piece that's a much more forceful and on-the-nose critique of the kinds of people you're talking about. But the play itself, what's really great about this piece, and I read this a long time ago, it really is an indictment of liberalism and was also interpreted really as an indictment of liberal democracy, because basically this guy finds out a truth that's going to cost the townspeople a lot of money. He goes to print it in the newspaper and they won't print it. So he says, well, I'm just going to get on my soapbox and sing it out to the world and people are going to love me for it. And they ruin him for it. And at the end, he says something where you think about what's happening to Julian Assange right now, what Russell was out there covering. He gives a monologue in the original piece. I guess they didn't put this in this one, that, sometimes you have to stand alone. You have to be willing to stand alone if standing for the truth means standing by yourself, if no one will stand with you. And we've heard Matt Taibbi talk about the character profile of the journalist, how that has devolved from that type in this play to what it is now, or it's the complete opposite of that. The last thing they want to do is be alone. Now journalists are all about elbow rubbing and networking, whereas journalists used to be the ornery, difficult, pain in the ass type who didn't get along with many people anyway. That's why he is a journalist in the first place. And so this play is a great play. Now the New York production, because of New York American audiences, like I say, I take your point, but the text itself, like if they just do a loyal portrayal of the text, it is really a play for our times. It's a really good piece, and it's extremely relevant. I mean, we talked about that in the context of journalism. What about in the context of what's going on in Flint? I mean, that's on the nose right there.
And that's exactly what I thought. Like, if you do an update of this for an American audience that's based in Flint, that would be really interesting. And you develop it through workshop with activists. Fuck the actors, they're worthless. They're worthless. Yeah, you have to start over. You have to start with people with actual convictions. So there's your curtain call there, and you can see he's covered in paint because they wind up attacking him. But I think that there's a real hunger now for going back to doing live stuff. It was inevitable. The pendulum was going to start to swing in the other direction. It's finally occurring to people that it's nice to go meet other people, right? Like this is all well and good, and it's great. It's brought us all together. But that production really inspired me, and now this is going to be a test case. So I'm going to make a gentleman's bet, although I don't think anyone in our audience is going to bet against me. This is a very interesting experiment. So when I go back to New York, I'm going to go see that production. My bet is that they are going to frame the townspeople, the bad guys, as MAGA. Some kind of red statey Republican kind of thing. It is not at all going to be what this was, which was very based.
Right. And what I'm saying is, if they do that, that would be a distortion of the original text. That would be disloyal to the original text, because the original text is quite a based play.
They're going to give it the Aaron Sorkin treatment.
The Aaron Sorkin treatment, yeah.
Nothing
money on that.
That's where my money is. There is no way that anything that would make it to Broadway in New York City would ever be produced that is in any way in an election year a critique of the liberal class.
Right.
That's what was it's so non-existent. I was shocked by it. That's why I screamed out and applauded when I heard it. I couldn't believe that, because he had been building to it for a while. And then when that was the message he was building to, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe I saw that on a stage. And when I first went into the theater, there were a lot of these kind of like very political theater companies. That was really common, that people would do shows about homelessness. They would do shows about poverty and these social issues. That's why I'm saying this didn't happen overnight. Like, those kinds of companies were pretty much gone by the end of the 90s. You didn't really see that anymore. I guess it was easy not to notice how gone that was from the scene when the times were less serious than they are now. And now it's just very, very glaring that you have it, because that community has just been completely overrun by liberal class children. There's a void that really needs to be filled. This is a left movement, and people very often say, well, where is it going? What's the message? What's the objective? Honestly, yes, we're figuring it out, and you always have to figure it out. And there are always periods where those conversations are taking place. You're trying to figure it out. But I think part of the problem is there's no culture through which to have that conversation. There's no binding vision, partly because the function of art is to define the paradigm. It's to create symbols that it can encompass the paradigm. And there's nobody doing that.
All right, let's go to some Rumble rants and super chats, and then we will switch over. A few years ago, says Stone Socialist, I had a convo with about a dozen pro-life women who had done IVF and swore discarding their unused embryos was not the same as an abortion. I'm eagerly waiting their take. On the Alabama case, when will people learn these laws restricting our freedoms will be used to harm them too? Yes, good point. Good point indeed, my friend. Nocturnal Human, I'm poor and working class, and I have time to care about foreign policy, especially because it's connected to domestic policy in a way the PMC will not experience. Yes, the idea of trans American
absolutely.
police. Absolutely, yes. Excellent point. D. Wortham, thanks for the $50. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Can we hit a cowbell for D. Wortham? New member, Kamala Harris, day by day, kill 100 Palestinians by day by day. We'll have a question for you later. Day by day is a Godspell reference. Oh, I thought it was, that's Godspell, but I thought it was the passing of time. Every day is, what is it? We with great significance to the passing of time, right? Thank you, gentlemen, for the best way to spend a Sunday night. Thank you. Keep putting the spotlight on issues. Appreciate that very much. Okay, all right. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Petrodollar has held inflation back in the U.S. for decades. As the developing world developed, they needed dollars, causing a shortage which offset runaway printing. De-dollarization is a huge deal. Of course. J.A. Savage, Koch Network just withdrew money support of Nikki. Oh, well, now she's really screwed. Giovanni Polidori, thanks for the $4. Appreciate that. Now that the channel is growing, you should play Russia's 2112 Overture when you hit 2112 viewers. There you go. That's a nice idea. I love what you guys are doing. Keep it up.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be arrogant, but we might need we won't get rid of the 666, but we might need another one, And yeah, 2112, ambitious, but a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Cool.
I like that.
Tony B, yay, everything's back to normal. Good to see you guys. Thank you very much, Tony B. And thank you all very much for being here. We got a couple more Rumble rants, which we will take on the Rumble side of the wall. That's where we're going to be going now. So our show is not over, folks. If you want to come hang out on Rumble, where we are going to do one more segment, which is kind of a multi-parter. We're going to break down the Taylor Lorenz versus Chaya Raichik Royal Rumble over on Rumble. Go to dudissidents.com/Rumble right now, and we will see you over there in 5 minutes. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, close out the YouTube stream, and head over to West Berlin. Go to dudissidents.com/Rumble, and we will see you over there in just 5 minutes. If you don't come join us on Rumble, which you should, it's going to be a lot of fun because not only do we have another segment, but we have a post-show Q&A. Patrons, paid Substack subscribers, paid locals, members. Phone lines are going to open in just a second, so feel free to call in during the intermission. We're going to take a 5-minute break and see you over there. If you don't join us there, join us at 9 p.m. Tuesday evening. It's the next time we'll be on all the channels. But we hope you guys follow the link on the screen right now.
I just want to say, within like 5 comments of each other, I saw this show is just like TYT. And this show smells of Russian collusion.
Well, that's Big tent here to do
Big
this
tent.
podcast.
Big tent of criticism.
Fuck yeah, keep them both. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. We will keep them both. That is a good
idea.
idea.
We won't get rid of 666.
No, we won't get rid of 666. That's a tradition at this point. We have to keep 666. But all righty, folks, we're heading over to Rumble. There will be a 5-minute intermission, after which we will see you over there for the remainder of the show and the Q&A. Until then, be safe and be well. Courage.
Oh, God damn it.
Oh, you have it? I didn't think you had it with you.
Yeah, I have it back there.
All right, we'll do it after the Rumble break. Folks, we'll see you in 5 minutes. Be a brief intermission. We will see you then. There you go.
Please clap.